is the greatest moment in my life.
Professional as always.
Well, I thought I was going to have a little bit longer than you because
We
my
have
internet
done-
is, you know, every week we come live and I go to say, hey, yo, like I normally do. So good evening, everybody. Hey, yo. But all anyone hears, or what I hear when I play it back for the audio version, is me going, yo, because my internet plays up.
Wow. I mean, we've done over 100 live episodes now.
Mm.
And I bet less than 50% you have come in on time.
Yeah, maybe. But it's not like I'm late, is it? It's not like I'm sat here, you know,
No,
you're sat here on your own.
Puffing away on your vape.
Yeah.
I mean, there has been times when I thought I would actually be sat here on my own when you've rocked up with like 30 seconds to go.
Bollocks. I've never turned up that late. Never.
Many a time I've had to message you and say, where are you?
Yeah, that does happen. That bit does happen. That is true. Dan Griffin in the chat
Griffin
already.
Straight away. Did Sad just say he comes live every week? I know he enjoys these shows, but fucking hell, that's why you only see from the top down, because underneath is Russell branding it.
It's terrible down there. I mean, to the point where I've had to put, you know, basically waterproof material on the carpet just so I don't
a 3-mix rubber that sets very, very quickly.
Oh yeah, bit of an accident at work today. Threw a load of that. That was a screw up. We were just talking about cats, Magsy, weren't we?
I mean, yeah, and I was just saying, what has my life become? Where our pre-show conversation is a cat that is terrorizing you, that doesn't even live with you, and you keep this cat around. It trashes your house. You keep it around because the cat is nice to you, and your own cats, the cats that you actually own, don't like you.
No, they don't. They don't. They like me at dinner time, but that's about it. I mean, a little context for everybody. As me and Magsy was sat here, you know, ready to go live and so on, Sharon flew into the bedroom quickly to grab her phone charger, which she left over there.
Not our cat is. I bloody hate it, that cat.
Not our cat is pissing me off, she shouted. And I'm sure Sharon will really appreciate that terrible impression of her as well, Magsy.
I thought it was spot on. It was like she's in the room.
And basically, next door's cat, he's an old boy, as we mentioned before. I think he's 14 or 15. He's getting on quite a bit. He months and months and months and months and months and months ago decided he was going to start popping his head into our house, and then he'd come in the house for a little bit, and then, you know, he started hanging around a bit longer, and then he'd get on the sofa and all this sort of stuff. But he's quite a cuddly old boy and so on. I mean, we'll call him Toby because that's his name. And
I thought you were going to come up with a cat pseudonym then.
But in the last week or two, he started to be really fucking naughty. And there you go, Sharon saying there, like literally in the time it took her to run upstairs, get her phone charger and run down. She's saying in the chat there, not our cat, was sat in her chair when she got downstairs. Now, Sharon's decorated downstairs, you know, a couple of months back. It looks really good. She's done a fantastic job because DIY is not my forte. I know that will surprise a lot of people, but I'm not that, you know, I'm not gifted in that way. So Sharon's done a fantastic job with the wallpaper in and all this sort of stuff, and hung the telly on the wall with a bracket, which means that the TV cabinet underneath, there's a bit of space on there then for Sharon to put certain bits and bobs of her own. So she's got like a Dallas Cowboys helmet there and a couple of models and all this sort of stuff, and those stuff that, you know, she loves. In the last week or two, next door's cat has decided that's where he must lie at all times.
So he's slowly been nudging the helmet off the side.
There's no slowly about it. He gets on there and just goes, don't want any of fucking this. Don't want any of that.
Slam.
And now I'm going to lie down. And then today, whilst I was upstairs watching this wrestling match and getting stuff ready and so on, I heard a bit of shouting and a door slam. I thought it was my daughter going out, saying "ta-la," shutting the door, whatever. It turns out it was Sharon kicking the cat out because.
Quite literally, like, meow.
Bearing in mind, he has never done this. He was up on the kitchen side, right? But not just up on the kitchen side, which, again, if he was up on the kitchen side, that would have been a surprise in itself because he's never done that. And he's not the most energetic. He's quite sloth-like, to be fair, this cat. He doesn't move a great deal. He's very slow in everything he does.
He is a very old cat.
Exactly. But he was up on the kitchen side, apparently, trying to eat our bread, which is in the wrapper on the side. And he's biting and clawing at the wrapper to open the wrapper of the loaf of bread up to help himself. I don't know what he wants, a fucking sandwich or something.
Carbs. He's on the Atkins diet and he's desperate for carbs.
Yeah. But he did this the once. And then apparently he did it again after this, even though Sharon had kicked him out. He found his way back in the house somehow. And he was doing it again. And I don't know why he started doing this. He's being quite naughty.
Maybe you just get better quality bread than the neighbours.
Maybe. I don't know, maybe. It is, I don't know what we buy, actually.
We're 6 minutes into this show, folks, and I apologise for SARS cat ranting, but it will eventually talk about wrestling, I promise.
To be fair, I was going to say the sort of pre-show chats that we have today was dominated by talking about me fucking up at work and this cat being a nuisance in my house. We discussed absolutely nothing to do with the show. That's the level of professionalism that goes into this live production here, isn't it, Max?
And that's the common thing about it. We very rarely discuss anything to do with the show. We absolutely wing it, and yet it's the best entertainment on the internet today. So just imagine if we put in effort. Imagine what we could do if we actually tried.
And you're going to have to imagine, because it ain't going to happen anytime soon. But anyway, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever and whenever you may be listening or watching from. This is Chain Wrestling Live with Mags and Si, episode 134, brought to you by SJP World Media. I am Si, and with me, as always, is the ultimate warrior to my ultimate warrior, especially after today at work when I fucked up a great deal. It was a bad time.
Sharon, I think I've lost my job again.
Yeah, I fucked it up again, Shah. The General Adnan, to my short attention span. We all know that's true. A podcaster who makes every combination possible a match made in hell. The podfather himself, Lord Mags. Or should I say Podfarmer Mags, as I see your handle has changed on our little screen there.
I mean, thanks for keeping up. It's been that for months now. So
no, I know it's been that like that there. I'm pointing and no one on the live version can see, which is bad enough. But also this comes out as an audio
the wrong direction as well.
Am I?
That was
no, that's the right direction for me. That's over there. Look.
Yeah, but for me, you're pointing the opposite way. But anyway, I'm absolutely fine. I'm doing really well. I would like to hear about this announcement that you've got to make as regards to the future of SJP World Media.
God, I didn't even notice that. See, okay. Pig Splatters, as always, the Photoshop wizard that he is, makes our backgrounds for the show every week, and we are hugely, hugely grateful because they always look fantastic. They're always relevant and new to every episode, and sometimes there's not much notice here, and they just pop up in a little group chat and say, "There you go, lads, it's fantastic." We're hugely appreciative.
Great work. Yeah.
Popped up in a little group chat on Twitter today, and I said, "What does that say in the fucking corner there?" And then I twigged, and he's put alternatives up. I said, you could use this or you could use this. But Magsy said, no, fuck you. We're doing this one. And it says, for those listening on the audio version later in the week, namely UTT Rob, don't get too excited because this is not going to happen. It says in the corner here on our live screen, coming soon to SJP World Media, the Babylon 5 podcast with Si Powell. Do you not think I'm busy enough?
About that.
Are you really? Are you a big Babylon 5 fan, yeah?
It's out of all the Babylons, 5 is the best of the Babylons.
Yeah. It's 4.
So when does this start?
It doesn't. It's not going to happen.
So it's not happening.
No.
So why advertise that it's happening?
Well, you put it up there, and somebody else created it. I've had no say in this whatsoever. No, actually, that's a lie. I had a say in it. I said, no, it's not going to happen. That was my say.
I'm actually now concerned that King Pigsbladders has realized how much power he wields doing these graphics. I think that some of the comments in there are going to get worse and worse week by week.
Oh, dear me. Well, Pigsbladders in the chat now saying he promised he'd do it earlier. I fucking didn't, you liar.
This Babylon 5 podcast.
Sorry?
When does it start?
It doesn't. It's not going to. It's not going to
start.
And
it's not happening. So you're a liar. You're lying. You're lying to the
I've never
lying to yourself.
Said, oh my God.
You've got about 3 or 4 episodes of this in the can.
Have I? Fuck. I don't even know. I know this upsets UTT Rob quite a bit, and I apologize in advance to him if it upsets him again. But I always thought it was part of like the Star Trek universe, but apparently it's completely on its own. It's nothing to do with that.
I have never watched it.
No, nor me.
It's too nerdy, even for me.
Again, I might be completely wrong, but it was explained to me as being quite political and like different groups and warring factions, but it's all sorted out by having a sit down rather than like a big laser fight in space. So,
well, that sounds shit.
Yes, we should look at Babylon 3 instead.
That will be another podcast that I will not be listening to. But if you enjoy Babylon 5, keep an eye out or an ear out for Sar coming with the. Well, you keep making yourself to be a liar then.
What Babylon 5 fans, do they have a name? Like Doctor Who fans, apparently, I found out online recently that they call themselves Whovians. Okay. And obviously Star Trek fans call themselves Trekkies. What are Babylon 5 fans?
Geeks.
Ah, okay.
Virgins. Virgins.
Shall we go to the chat, Maxie, and see who's there?
Yeah, let's quickly gloss over that. So we'll start today with King Pig's Matters, the amazing Photoshop wizard and quite terrifying power wielder now. If you want anything advertised, contact King Pig's Matters and he will stick that in the graphic.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. You can have a little sidelight now, couldn't he?
Yeah, he's making more money off this podcast now than we'll make. That's amazing.
We don't make any money off this podcast.
so a deal 1 pence per video, and he's already making way more money than us. King Pig Banner says, when a deep injury is done to us, we never recover until we forgive. I'm sorry, Sharon. Is that still going on? Sharon has got a long memory.
No, I think it's
she holds a grudge. She holds a grudge, though.
I think it's all blown over. I think it's okay now. She's more preoccupied with what those fucking cat's doing, to be fair.
Yeah, you've been given a reprieve until the cat gets booted out. Sharon in the chat as well. It's Monday night. You know what that means.
Oh, yes.
Dan Griffin, did Sar just say he comes live every week? Well, we've covered this. He's got a semi-lab on. Let's now go 2 ways about it.
I was going to say in the buff from the waist down, but even that's a lie. This t-shirt's cut off like a crop top. My belly's out and everything.
he's like Shawn Michaels, like 1996, 97 Shawn Michaels, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Like assless chaps.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's actually what I wear to work, but
that's a uniform. That's a uniform in Gloucester. King Pig Bladder's trying to butter up Sharon with a hi Sharon there, and then hello to Dan. The best Powell in the business, Charlie. Hello, Charlie. How are you? Connor from Connor Knows Soccer. Hello, CDRF. How are things? How are we this afternoon / evening? We are doing very well, Connor, and glad that you're here to join us. Not our cat was sat in my chair when I went downstairs.
Oh, dear. Listen to you.
Hey, CWF. I'm going to, in fact, I might spend all episode doing a Sharon impression. What do you think?
I don't think you should.
No, I don't. She will kill me from halfway down the country.
Yeah.
Morty in the chat as well, calling everybody spagos, and I promised I would catch the second episode of Safe Space Sessions. That's the name of it. I've got that.
Yes,
right.
Safe Place Sessions.
Where Morty and James have a very frank chat, and I was speaking to Morty in the DMs, and part 2 of that is going to be coming up pretty soon. So yeah, for me it's a really important show. So I'll definitely go and check it out. And if you want to be a part of it, just let us know.
Definitely.
Everyone welcome. King Pig is saying hi to Morty, and then Morty saying he's been meeting largely from Rantermasters. Just got back to the hotel in time for this nonsense. And then Dan says largely is the best jacket potato in all of the land. Large and doesn't move a lot. Is that me in cat form? So, is largely a cat?
I don't know.
Brilliant.
I know that Ben and Morty met up today, so I don't know if he's making a reference towards Ben there.
That would be very rude. wouldn't it?
Mm.
Morty said the first thing I've said to him is, "You're real. I was worried you were a figment." And then Morty asks, "How are the meringues?" And Sharon says, "The meringues are meringuing." Sharon making meringues. I love it.
No. This was there was an episode of the Morty and Fitch show that the lads were recording, and I was sat doing a bit of editing and other stuff, and then my computer may start making funny noises, and it was those two fuckers giving me a random call. So after lots of messing about trying to sort, because I was downstairs trying to sort a microphone out and all that sort of shit, eventually I said, okay, I've got 50 minutes. We'll have a chat. That turned into pretty much the whole show, and then Sharon took the headset and was on the show for a while. Even Charlie popped on and said hello for a little bit as well.
Wow.
But there's some kind of dirty innuendo involving meringues that I was not privy to between my wife and Morty and Fitch. So I'm gonna have to wait until that show actually comes out to hear what they were discussing. So
and Sharon hasn't let you in on the job.
Yeah, I've kind of got the gist of it, but I'll wait till the show comes out. So
Okay.
it may even be out now as we speak, actually.
It could well be. So go and check it out after this, obviously.
After this, yeah.
Scottish Dan in the chat. Hello, sir. How are you? He says, "Hey, you're CWF." Then Morty says, "Poor old Rob, what a tease you are." So I'm assuming he means that you mentioning Rob listening to the podcast, and then Dan says, "Today of all days, when Huddersfield Town have announced Neil Warnock's retirement, and you're teasing Rob. Talk about kicking a man when he's down. Reprehensible, sir. You
Why am I getting all the heat for this? This is not down to me. This has nothing to do with me.
Well, King Pigsmatter says he promised he'd do it earlier, and there's a written contract, and it's a real letdown. Mag's missing the perfect opportunity to drop a cunt bomb there.
Brilliant. There we go. Started already. 10-9. Fantastic.
Morty says I thought he called them geese. Saggy geese. Yeah, I love in jokes, especially when you don't get them. It will never be blown over, Simon. So
she calls me Simon. She called me Simon.
You're in the shit, and people have picked up on that. Simon. Sorry, Sharon.
Only my nan calls me Simon.
I'm now very worried. I know. I best not actually do the impression there. She said, "I know where you live, Mr. Bags," and that, folks, is the end of the Sharon impressions for this episode.
Fantastic.
Dan Griffin says both episodes of SPS have been excellent. Listened and great food for thought. Yeah,
brilliant stuff.
Largely is Ben from Rant to Masters. Every time Beans says largely, Ben says, "Don't call me largely." See, this is what happens when you don't listen to podcasts. You miss out on these in jokes. I really should listen to these podcasts because they, from what I have heard of them, they are absolutely quality, and I'm feel like I'm missing out.
Yeah, my listening. I think I said last week, didn't I? My listening's dropped dramatically as well since I started this new job.
Yeah, we learn this hard down. That's what happens when you're big time, though. You become big time.
Well, this is it.
You forget everyone beneath you.
You know, when you're Premier League, you don't spend your time looking at League Two, do you?
Exactly.
I'm sorry. I don't mean it.
And with that, everybody just left.
Yeah, it's just me and you talking to each other like Mike.
Morty says his favourite episode in months is out next week, featuring the Powells.
Next week. There we go. We'll have to. I'll definitely check that out.
And Sharon says Morty, she'll happily join in any time. And then Connor, to rub it in to poor UTT Robs again, he said, "How many times has Neil retired before taking on another job, though?" That is very true. The guy must have worked for every club in the English league. So that's the chat all caught up with.
Fantastic stuff. Okay. We've got loads to talk about, Magsy. Hall of Lane this week. Non-wrestling topic with numerous responses. A lot to get into there.
A big old Steve-O section.
Yeah, definitely. A wrestling match that has a lot of characters involved that are going to sort of open up various conversations, I feel.
No wrestling.
No wrestling. Very, very little actual wrestling, yes. But there we go. Do we have chicken news, Maxie, or are we diving straight into the Hall of Lane?
Chicken News with Mags, only on Chain Wrestling.
Big old puff of vapey smoke.
It's fucked,
Smoked
mate. I
chicken.
don't know what's going on. I think I broke it because now I'm getting loads of like the juice all over the place. It's horrible.
Just quit the vaping. That'd be the best
Yeah, I
thing.
probably should. I don't
Anyway.
vape at work, funnily enough.
So then don't vape at home.
I could.
Have a chicken news. So last week, if you recall, I mentioned that Charlie, the new breed of chickens, had started laying, which is absolutely amazing. And I said that it won't be long before the rest of the young ones started laying. So I was actually coming today to tell you that 6 out of the 7 chickens that we've got are laying.
Awesome.
And then I collected today's eggs, and there were 7. So today's chicken news is very, very positive. All 7 chickens are happy, healthy, and laying big old eggs. So
Brilliant stuff, mate.
49 eggs per week. No,
49 eggs a week. Why?
week. Yes.
You'll be sick of
Amazing.
eggs, dude.
Yeah, I mean, we give them away to pretty much anyone.
Just not me. Oh, that's brilliant. I see that in the chat as well from Dan Griffin, first of all. Cy complaining about the juices after a big blow. Lowering the tone.
And then King Pig's Brother said he watched the Sid versus Bread match from the poll. Great match. I loved it. Yeah, it is a good match.
It is. Instead, we had to watch fucking Hogan.
And then Dan Griffin says that's excellent news, Mags. Yes, thank you very much. Yeah.
See what he did there.
But now I am tempted to get some more chickens. But anyway, that's today's chicken news.
Again, more chickens again.
Yeah.
Bloody hell.
See, it's chicken maths. I told you at the beginning.
All adds up, mate.
It all adds up, yeah.
It all adds up. No, that's good news, man. That's good news that they're all laying. That's fantastic. Yeah, brilliant stuff. 49 eggs a week. Fantastic. Imagine the size of that omelette.
Imagine the size of the pan needed to cook the omelette.
Well, yeah, it would. Yeah, that'd be substantial, wouldn't it? That'd be very substantial. We have a name we don't recognise in the chat there, Magsy. What's that there? Alex Perez, I think that is. Is that how I pronounce that correctly?
Yeah, it says, hey guys, with The Rock returning at SmackDown, what dream segment with The Rock you want to see with a female WWE wrestler? Mine is The Rock and Baylor with Damage Control. Thoughts on that? Interesting. The Rock with female talent. I mean, the obvious one is it'd have to be Rhea Ripley. I mean, that woman it's mammy. She's the best thing in women's wrestling today. So I think her and Rock could make absolute gold.
I think if you're having just a segment, though, you need somebody who's exceptional on the mic to be able to handle the crowd and the Rock doing what he does and so on. You know, otherwise it might end up being a bit one-sided. I don't know enough about Rhea Ripley. I don't watch WWE week to week. I just watch the pay-per-views, really. So is Rhea Ripley good enough on the mic to be able to handle that, Magsy? I don't know.
I think she's got the charisma to do it. Maybe there's very few people, men or women, who could go toe-to-toe with The Rock on the mic anyway. I think Rhea could certainly handle her own.
Okay.
But Dan Griffin in the chat has come up with a good scenario. The Rock turning up on NXT to save his daughter from the Schism Cult. Yeah, very good. I mean,
I bet there's a chance The Rock doesn't even know what NXT is.
I mean, it will do with the fact that his daughter's in there. Like, oh, you're playing at being a wrestler, love.
Yeah, there we go. Bailey, though, I reckon that's a brilliant shape. Bailey. I mean, I'm a massive Bailey fan. You know, not just for certain reasons, but I think in the ring and microphone skills.
You're a hugger. That's the problem.
I am a hugger, mate. I am.
Sharon in the chat says, wouldn't the obvious thing be Jade Cargill? Yeah, because
apparently
she's due in the Performance Center very, very soon.
Well, apparently they were talking about her debuting on NXT NXT this week, I read online, but then there's somebody else has reported that she was on a plane flying back home today. So apparently that's not going to happen just yet.
I don't think NXT is the right place for her. I think she's main roster straight away.
She's an absolute star, isn't she, Jade Cargill?
I mean, the wrestling it's not quite there. But in terms of star potential, money making potential, yeah, AEW dropped the ball not building the women's division around her. Absolutely.
I think, yes, I agree with that partially, but on the other side of the coin, I think they did a good job with her to a degree because she almost had the Goldberg treatment. Me and Sharon were talking about it the other night. She almost had the Goldberg treatment because she is pretty green. Let's be honest. She's very new to the business. She's learning incredibly quickly, so fair play to her. But she was on television squashing people, and they did the old Paul Heyman thing, didn't they? Where you hide what they're not good at and you focus on what they are good at, and that made her look an absolute star. I would worry in WWE if they don't look after her in the same way, that may fall apart a little bit. But at the same time, she has got so much about her. She looks fantastic. Just everything. She just screams star, doesn't she? So
yeah, absolutely.
You'd hope that the WWE wouldn't drop the ball there as well. So
Dan Griffin agrees with you, saying that Bayley is probably the best shout. She's got the patter. King Pigs Brothers says Chelsea Green and The Rock tag team champions. That would be a bit. The Rock as part of the women's tag team champions would be absolutely amazing. But I would like to echo what Dan said. Is great question and welcome along, Alex. Yeah, and anytime you want to pop round, just turn up. 8:30 every Monday. Thank you very much.
Every single Monday at 8:30. Speaking of which, Maxie, have you seen what Big Bob's wearing today?
I have. He's wearing a chain wrestling.
He is
t-shirt.
wearing a chain wrestling t-shirt. It's the Ted Atlas versus who is it? Tony.
It was Tony Atlas.
Tony Atlas versus Ted. I don't know.
Arceche, was it? I think.
Yeah.
The very worst wrestling match that we've ever had to cover on this show.
Yeah, that's the t-shirt that Big Bob is wearing there. 100% boredom guaranteed, it says at the bottom. So
that's not this show. That's the matches.
No. That's the match. Yeah, that match was horrific. That was your pick, wasn't it?
It was, and I did it on purpose.
Yeah, you're one of the reasons why we can't have nice things. Shall we, speaking of things that are not particularly nice, chuck some shit away into the Chain Wrestling Live Hall of Fame?
Let's do it.
The Hall of Oh then, Magsy, what you got for us? Well, it's first one for a little while, actually, isn't it? Must be a good month or so.
Yeah, it's been. I think it's even longer than that. We got distracted with Sporkle, and then we Scarf for a bit. So yeah, it's been a while. Now this topic for me became very pertinent when it turned out that you are a big fat liar. You promise things and then you don't go through them. And it like the Babylon 5 podcast that we've gone to great lengths to promote, and now you've reneged on the deal.
I'm not.
But if you remember, a couple of months back, we covered a topic about a liar. That liar being the immortal Hulk Hogan himself. And
I remember it well. I enjoyed it.
I said at the time that there was so much more to this topic, and that this could be it could be revisited. And I think I mentioned a couple of weeks that more information would come out, and that a second entrant for Hulk Hogan into the Hall of Fame would be coming soon. But I've actually got enough for 4 entries for Hulk Hogan.
Goodness.
So this is part 2 of what will be a 4-entry season of Hulk Hogan is a big fat Billy bullshitter. So the first one, if you remember, I'll quickly scan through it. I covered 15 Hulk Hogan lies, things like that he didn't the way he learned about wrestling. He was in Metallica. He was offered a place in Metallica. That he met a child in London when he was part of SummerSlam 1992, and the child died, and he released a song that went to the child. The proceeds went to the child's family. Things like he was offered a UFC spot. That Undertaker near enough broke his neck at Survivor Series. So he waffled a lot of shit.
Yes.
So let's get to Hulk Hogan is a big fat bully bullshitter number 2. So this is 15 more Hulk Hogan fibs.
Okay.
So
I'll tell you what, Magsy, before you dive on in, 15 of them, yes?
there's 15, yeah.
Right. CWF in the chat. We want you to shout out your favorite Hogan lie from these 15. You get one. What is your favorite?
So number 1, Hulk Hogan claimed he was offered the main role in the movie The Wrestler 3 times, but the director, Darren Aronofsky, responded via tweet saying, "For the record, the role of the wrestler was always Mickey Rourke, and it was never going to be Hulk Hogan," as Hogan claimed on the Howard Stern show. Number 2, Hogan claimed that he was supposed to play bass for the Rolling Stones.
What? I've not heard that one before.
Yeah. So not only was he going to be in Metallica, he was also meant to be in the Rolling Stones. Which is
Could you imagine if he could have lined that up? The crossover tours we could have had.
Who would be the headliner though? Clearly,
They'd have to
Hogan.
alternate, mate. They'd have to alternate.
Yeah.
You know.
So expanding on Hogan's UFC Billy bullshit, he also said that he used to fight against Pride fighters in the early 70s. The issue with that being that Pride, as a fighting company, didn't have their first event until 1997, some 20 odd years later.
That's my favorite so far.
Next one, number 4, Hogan has said that he parted with John Belushi after WrestleMania 2. John Belushi died in 1982 when WrestleMania 2 was actually in 1986. So
WrestleMania 1 hadn't even happened.
Exactly. Next up, Hogan said that Mike Tyson was too scared to work with him in WCW. And he said that Tyson also had to cancel a program with him in WWF when he lost a boxing match. Next up, Hogan said that he had a match with Antonio Inoki. He claims that he beat up Inoki so badly that Inoki actually died, but was brought back to life via CPR after the match. And then Hogan said that he wasn't allowed to work in Japan for a number of years after the Yakuza had him on a hit list.
For killing Inoki.
Killing him, and then thankfully he was brought back to life.
Okay, scrap that. That's my favorite now so far.
Oh, it gets better. In 2015, Hogan claimed he was the first ever person to notice that Kevin Owens should be the guy in wrestling. He said that is the guy. I don't care if he looks like a wrestler or he looks like an ice cream salesman. That is the guy. Kevin had been working for around 15 years in 2015, and he'd had very notable runs in CZW, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, and of course Ring of Honor. But Hogan was the first to notice.
Oh, he noticed him,
yeah. Hulk Hogan claimed that Elvis Presley was a Hulkamaniac. Hulk Hogan made his wrestling debut on the 9th of August of 1977, and he was under a mask. He wrestled as the character Super Destroyer.
Yeah.
Elvis died literally a week later on the 16th of August 1977, and the character of Hulk Hogan didn't debut until November of 1979. So again, Hogan can time travel or raise the dead with the amount of people that he can entertain after they've passed.
Perhaps he can time travel and raise the dead. He just uses his abilities for evil.
He uses abilities for self-interest.
Yeah.
Hogan claimed that Harley Race came to the arena with a gun in a Kansas City show in the 1980s. He then set the ring on fire, and when he ran into Hogan, he shook Hogan's hand, thanked him for all he has done for the world of wrestling, and begged him for a job. Next,
the Harley Race going to a WWF arena with a gun to shoot Hogan, that is true. Harley Race has actually confirmed that did happen. The rest of it...
Did he burn the ring down, though?
Well, I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure. But yeah, Harley Race wanted to shoot Hogan.
And he would have done the world a service if he had done that. On the Joe Rogan podcast, Hogan claims he had kept an eye on Brock Lesnar from back when Brock was in high school, and claimed he was the first person to wrestle Brock when he got back to the WWE from the UFC. Brock returned to the WWE in 2012, which was 6 years after Hogan's last match, which was Randy Orton at SummerSlam.
For goodness sake, I don't understand how these are checkable things. I don't understand how he thinks he can get away with this.
Yep, he's just shits lies, absolutely shits lies. Hogan has said that he battered an unreal 7-14 in the Little League World Series. Now, I have no idea what this number means. I'm assuming it's to do with how many home runs you hit. The problem is there is no record of Hulk Hogan ever playing in the Little League World Series.
Oh, my word.
So
I bet Sid holds the record.
Sid's still playing Little League now.
Yeah.
Hulk Hogan has stated that he was scouted by the Cincinnati Reds and the New York Yankees. He claimed he was a star pitcher in high school baseball when it was actually Macho Man Randy Savage who was signed with the Cincinnati Reds.
Yeah.
But stealing other people's glory now.
Well, yeah, but that is, especially with Savage, he's done that his whole life.
Yeah, it's been pretty much his career. On the Bubba the Love Sponge show, Hogan claimed that during a promo back in the day, he called himself the best wrestler there ever was or ever will be. Bret Hart and Owen Hart overheard him, and according to Hogan, this is where Bret Hart got his infamous catchphrase.
Oh, right. Okay. That'll be shortly after the interview that Hogan did, where he quoted a Bible passage, and Austin went, "Oh, do you know what? Do you know what? He's onto something there, that fella. You know?" What a fucking knobhead.
Next, Hulk Hogan claims he was originally supposed to be the face of the George Foreman grill, but he missed the phone call, and they ended up offering it to George Foreman instead. The designer of the grill has actually confirmed that he knew George Foreman, and Hogan was never actually considered for the promotion.
Wow. Okay. See, now that one there, that's kind of gone into some, mythological levels or folklore or whatever. Because I genuinely thought that was true.
He's a convincing bullshitter.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
And then I'm going to leave this week's Hulk Hogan is a bullshitter on a pretty sad note. So Hulk Hogan claimed on the Theo Von podcast that his actual real life brother was a former motorcycle gang member who had spent time in Rayford Prison in California, that he had rode with a gang in Houston, and then he rode with the Hells Angels in California. He then said that his brother and wife were murdered, his brother being shot twice in the chest whilst out in a nightclub, and his wife had been murdered some time earlier than that. The truth actually was that his brother was not murdered at all, but actually died of a heroin overdose.
Okay. So
of all the things to lie about, the death of your flesh and blood, the guy is a scumbag. Hulk Hogan is a fucking big fat Billy bullshitter. So yes, that is this week's Hall of Lame entrance, and that is episode 2 of the Hulk Hogan is a big fat Billy bullshitter series.
The Inoki one, I think, is still my favorite. Give us a shout in the chat, CWF. Let us know what you think. And on Twitter, if you're listening to the audio version, those 15 that Magsy has read out this week, let us know your favorite one. Because there's some whoppers.
That's only halfway as well, folks. Two
Brilliant.
more 15 sets of Billy Bullshits.
So that is a little bit of Hulk Hogan bashing, and rightfully so. He deserves it. Maxie, how would you like to, just pile on in with the people who revolutionized wrestling back in the early 80s and maybe have a little bit of a dig at Vince McMahon now?
I like digging at Vince McMahon. With that villain mustache, he deserves it.
Exactly. A little while back, we had a Hall of Fame entrant. I think it was me. It might have been you, Max. I'm not sure, but I think it was me. And it was to do with the misuse of talent on the main roster in WWF or WWE. When they change gimmicks, mainly when they got somebody who's over and being really good in NXT and so on, they get promoted. They decide to dress them up as some sort of nonsense and totally wreck their careers. This is of a similar ilk, but much earlier than NXT. This is going back to the mid-90s when we had a individual who everyone is fully aware of, who wrestled for ECW. I mean, he worked for the WWF in the very early 90s, a little bit in the late 80s, but didn't really get anywhere. Well, actually, that's not true. Oddly, he partnered Marty Jannetty in the Rockers for an incredibly short period. No, for a very short. Shawn Michaels got injured, and this individual filled in for Shawn Michaels for about 5-6 weeks, tagging with Marty Jannetty till Shawn came back. He went off and wrestled also in WCW. Again, the 90s, late 80s, early 90s, mid-card WCW, you had some very silly gimmicks there, and this guy had a very silly gimmick before kind of finding his feet in ECW. Now, this fella was the longest reigning ECW world champion of all time. He's also, with regards to the cumulative days, when you add up all the title reigns, Magsy, he also has the longest or the highest amount of accumulative days as ECW champion throughout the formation of the company and then running into the mid-90s and so on, when it was fully established as, I suppose you would say, number 3 in the world, wouldn't you? Even though it wasn't
it was definitely number
on
3.
the level of WCW or WWE at times. This guy has had some incredibly historic moments. The one that really stands out to me, and I got a t-shirt somewhere back there with a whole speech written out on, is when he won the NWA world title, and in front of all the officials for the NWA, threw that championship on the floor, said the NWA can kiss his ass, and he is the ECW world champion, which is a fantastic bit of television if anyone's never seen it, because the NWA had no idea that was going to happen.
And they were fuming.
They were so cross. I would like to talk about Shane Douglas. The franchise, as he is known, the first person to ever hold a title in WWF, ECW, and WCW. The first person to ever do that. There's only 11 people to have done that in the original format before WWF bought them all out. So that's quite spectacular for him on that part as well. He was a brash, loudmouth, aggressive, quite sweary at times individual as the franchise character, quite an angry character as well. A very effective heel. If you go back and check out some of his ECW work when he's in the main event picture, really, really good at playing that role. And it turns out, like a lot of wrestlers who fit a certain role, he was kind of just playing himself turned up to 10. Because if you listen to him in podcasts and interviews now, he is that kind of guy, Max, isn't he? Really, that is his,
his shtick.
Exactly. In 1995, he signed for the WWF. So what do you think happened with the WWF? Do you think they looked at this guy who was tearing up the place in ECW, super over, as anyone who worked with him was instantly a crazy over babyface because of how much Shane Douglas was hated by some of the ECW faithful. He could work with a valet. Sherry was his manager for a while in ECW, which I didn't know until I started looking into it further today. I find that fascinating. You could bring this guy in and you instantly got a mid-card heel in WWF standards who could be vile, nasty, draw some heat and build a baby face up to the main event picture, or even go on and win titles himself. But oh no, not our friend Shane. Vince had a different idea. Firstly, his name was changed to Dean Douglas, because obviously everyone who wrestles for the WWF has to have the initials that match. He was also looked upon as being an intelligent individual. He had to tidy his hair up a little bit, make sure he was very clean shaven. And they dressed him in a horrific baby powder blue singlet and cape, sort of gown effort as well. And he basically became the Dean Douglas. Again, you can see the guy's verbal skills in some of these skits. He can obviously talk, and he's rating the wrestlers and scoring them and giving them report cards and all this sort of stuff. But it went down like a fart in church. It was horrific. All this fanfare, vignettes, and so on, bringing this guy in from a company that was, again, in 1995, ECW was probably the hottest thing in wrestling at the time. WWF was on its arse. WCW was just lame for the cartoon characters that they stole from the WWF. ECW was cutting edge, and this guy was, as the name says, their franchise. This guy was the top guy for that company. So they bring him in and do this to him. And obviously, it didn't get over. It absolutely sucked. Yes, he had trouble with the click and so on as well, but it just didn't work out. And bad booking also didn't help. He had the potential to be the Intercontinental Championship, win the Intercontinental Championship, when our good friend Sean got his ass handed to him by a couple of Marines in a car park because he was a chopsy little scamp. And Shane Douglas was basically given the Intercontinental Championship because Sean couldn't defend it. Rather than let him run with that title for a while, they had him lose it 20 minutes later to Razor Ramon in his only Intercontinental title win for Shane Douglas. So, and obviously it didn't work because he was gone by Christmas. So there we go. My entrant into the Hall of Fame this week is the misuse of Shane Douglas, the character Dean Douglas, and once again, Vince McMahon thinking, I know better than every other fucker.
And a fourth one, every wrestler has to have a job as their
yes. Yeah, maybe because in 95 they were on their arse, weren't they, the WWF? Maybe he was just preempting stuff and trying to get people a second income because he couldn't pay them.
It could well be.
You know?
They've got experience at being a plumber. He's got experience at being an ass skating fan. Yeah, why not?
He's got experience of being an ice skating fan. Figure skating, yeah,
pretty much. So it was Jane Tovell and Christopher Dean. Was he called Christopher Dean? I think so.
Yeah. So those are your entrants into this week's Chain Wrestling Live Hall of Fame. We have big fat Billy Bullshitter Hulk Hogan and Dean fucking Douglas.
It was so bad. Poor Shane. No wonder he's such an angry human being now.
Yeah, he is very cross, isn't he? He's not a happy bunny in the slightest.
He's a very, very cross human being. Dan Griffin in the chat says, to this day, I don't know what getting your ass franchised entails, and I don't want to know. And King Pig's Banner is definitely sexual.
Probably.
Definitely.
Probably. But there we go. Magsy, is there anything else in the chat we need to take a look at, or shall we get on with our non-wrestling topic?
We'll just nip back a couple. Scottish Connor says, I think Hulk Hogan is the record holder for the most Hall of Fame entries. He's going to get some more yet, so hang on to your hats, folks.
He's probably right. He's got to be up there, isn't he?
Yeah. Scottish Danny says you've got to love. I think the leader right now is Dustin Rhodes. He's in there quite a lot.
Yeah, quite 7. And what was the other one? Black Rain.
Has Black Rain gone in?
Yeah, you put him in.
Did I? I forget. That's why I need the list updated. Scottish Danny says you've got to love a good Hogan fib. King figures that out, or even a bad one. Dan Griffin says, think my favorite Hulk Hogan one is when he claimed to wrestle 400 days a year because flying to Japan and back added days onto his year. Yeah, he's such a Billy bullshitter. It makes no sense at all. No. It's just lies for the sake of lying. King's Big Brother says Inoki is cool. A lot of people would not agree with that Inokism and things like that, but what he's done for Japanese wrestling, absolutely outstanding. Dan says of the 15 tonight, the Inoki one is just fucking glorious. Hogan is a Trump level like pile of rotten knobs. King Pigs Banner says he saw a piss take one today saying that Hogan survived the Titan sub. Can you imagine? It was his fault. It blew up probably. So yeah, that's the chat all caught up.
Fantastic stuff. And thank you, everybody, joining us once again here live on a Monday night. And again, thank you, everybody, for getting in contact with us for our non-wrestling topic. Magsy, should we dive on in?
Let's go for it.
NWT time. Oh! No wrestling talk here. It's the non-wrestling topic.
Lovely.
Nice.
Lovely.
Nice.
Ooh, lovely.
Lovely.
I fixed my vape now, but now the battery's dying. That's quite inconvenient.
See, the world is telling you to stop vaping.
It is, mate. It is, yeah. Our non-wrestling topic this week was relatively simple, wasn't it? And it was a great shout by you, Mr. Mags. Greatest inventions ever. And people can be as serious or as daft as they like, isn't it?
A little bit of a peek behind the curtain. Sa messaged me and said, we need to start being more professional. What's the schedule? Are we doing Hall of Lim? Are we doing Mags v Sa? And what question are we going to have for the non-wrestling topic? So I just said, Hall of Lim, non-wrestling topic question, best invention ever. And he went, that is amazing. End of chat. And that's how professional we were.
Yeah, and we didn't speak again until we were sat here tonight.
We actually probably did it as well.
So let's dive on in, and I will read them out in the order that they arrived into us, Magsy. Roughly,
Brilliant.
sort of, kind of. There is somebody
What the
apparently,
fuck is
Mags.
that gif?
That is people doing a zoom in before it was invented.
No, I can read the caption.
Okay.
It's just stupid. Right.
Yeah,
There was somebody blah blah blah. Brilliant.
What? Was there a question? Sorry?
Yeah, you were literally just going to say something before I interrupted you.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah. Oh yeah. See, again, short attention span. I said it in the intro. There was somebody last week, Magsy, whose comment we didn't read out.
I mean, you didn't read it out. I take no part in that.
Well,
yeah, I've seen the comment. It's our good friend James. Yeah, I'm all right.
Yeah, who's not here tonight, so we've obviously upset him.
Yeah, you are alienating our fan base.
Hang on, right, we'll get to that in a minute because I've got it saved here, and we'll get to that with his comment for this week's. But you saying I take no part in that is bollocks, because when I read these out and then we discuss them and comment them, if I miss one, your little eyes light up. You love it when I fuck up, so because then you can go, actually, you did this wrong, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I should have jumped on that opportunity, but I also missed it as well.
There we go. Look. There we go. We are equally at fault, but it's mostly you.
We apologize, James.
We start with Connor Knows Soccer at Connor Knows Footy on Twitter, and he says, "Total football, positionless, all-out attacking football, defenders attacking, attackers defending. One of the great brands of football to watch, i.e., the Netherlands national team. I knew the Dutch were good for something." Okay, now I'll tell you what. When I read that. When we put out there, Magsy, best invention of all time, when I read that completely knocked me for six. I didn't expect to read something football orientated in the best inventions of all time, you know?
You didn't expect to read something football orientated from Connor Knows Soccer, who strong arms football into every answer of the non-wrestling topic. You didn't expect that.
Right. I can see that by my comment about you missing the comment, James's comment last week has obviously got you a bit prickly. So should we just move on?
Well, let's talk about this first. Yeah, I think it's a brilliant invention. As for best inventions of all time, a football formation probably is a little bit down the ladder, but in the terms of the football world, yeah, it was revolutionary. That Dutch side of the 70s was something else. Yeah, absolutely brilliant.
Still won fuck all though.
That's very true.
Well, that is, isn't it? They didn't win anything.
Yeah.
So...
They won the hearts of football, and that's enough for everybody.
That's enough. At Jimmy Evans for real, our good friend Jimmy, who comments quite often,
you know what?
and he's.
I love Jimmy's. He does not fuck about. There's no wasted words, no wasted movement.
Nope.
Jimmy, his comment is the internet. Two
and
words.
He is right.
It's up there. It's certainly up there. It's the internet is just such a massive tool. It's brought the world closer together. The things that we can now do, the things that are possible because this is possible because of the internet. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's the internet's a phenomenal invention.
Is there like a guy who invented the internet, like one bloke?
I don't think it was just one blob, but yeah, it was certainly someone who invented it. It was started to be kind of a way of transmitting data for the US Army, I think.
So you think that whether it was a company or a person or whatever, you think their name would be a little bit more well known, wouldn't you?
Well, it was Ian Internet, that's why.
Yeah. Fucking listen to you. Millwall Chris at Millwall Chris 1 on Twitter. I'm not it's an invention, really.
I mean, depending on your religious stance, God invented it.
Fair point. Yeah, okay. Chris says trees.
They should have gone the Jimmy Evans route and just left it at that.
Just
no
said trees,
context, no context whatsoever.
Trees. I think they have something to do with oxygen, and I think that keeps us alive. So that's a good invention.
I like the way I absolutely love Millwall Chris, but I like the way in that sentence he's not entirely sure that they have anything to do with oxygen, and he's not entirely sure that helps keep us alive.
Oh, bloody hell.
God nailed it with trees, I've got to say.
That's good work, that is. MGB Graham, he says as well, the internet. Even though I left England 20 plus years ago, I have managed to stay in contact with family and friends, watch my favorite shows, order favorite foods through Amazon, meaning I don't ever really get too homesick. I'll tell you what, Graham, I would love to hear what English foods, British foods, or treats, or whether your breakfast cereals, sweets, whatever, you order in. The stuff from home that is so specifically important that you can't get in the States that you order in. Because I think that'd be really interesting.
I've seen him mention before that he gets a care package of English stuff in.
Amazing. Brilliant.
King Pig's Bladder says Vinton Cerf and Bob Kahn are credited with inventing the internet, apparently. Well, those guys are legends.
Oh, look at that. Huh. Okay. Well, you learn something every day.
Graham orders frame Bentos by the ton. Oh, wow.
That's
of all the quintessential English products,
yeah,
a pie in a tin with the sloppiest puff pastry ever. Brilliant.
Oh, the bottoms of those are always really bad, aren't they?
Yeah, but to say how horrific they look, they are banging pies.
Yeah, I imagine Graham orders them in bulk, ready for the whole football season, so we can join in, properly at the halftime pie club on the volley night.
Yeah, because everybody sits there with a red hot tin of Frey Bentos.
That's the way it's to be done, mate. That's the way. And next live, I hope that Dan Griffin has a Frey Bentos pie, and he's timed it in the oven so it's ready for halftime. That's what I want.
That'd be amazing. Just Dan shoveling Frey Bentos just steak pie into his mush. Brilliant.
Yeah. Speaking of Dan Griffin, we have him here. Bog roll. When you're as full of shit as I am, you can't live without it.
I mean, it's a great invention, but it's been usurped, I think, by the bidet.
Do you think?
Have you ever used a bidet?
I have not. Have you got a bidet?
No, but I go on holiday I just go on holiday to Turkey regularly. And every toilet has a bidet in Turkey.
Does it
it's
really?
The thing, yeah. It's weird at first because obviously you're getting sprayed in the butthole with water, but it does leave
we
you.
are a wrestling podcast, but
it leaves you refreshingly clean. It's really good.
Well, okay, now this may come across a little bit ignorant, a little bit daft, a little bit uneducated, which I suppose is kind of my method on this show. But with regards to that, then, is there a towel there for you to use, or you just walk around with a soggy arse? Or
no, there's still toilet roll. to like pat it dry. So,
So why don't you just wipe your ass with the paper?
so because in Turkey their sewer system it's from the days of Methuselah, and
Okay.
they regularly get sewage blocks because of tourists using toilet roll and wiping the poo and down the toilet. So you have the bidet clean your chocolate starfish, dry it with your toilet roll, and the toilet roll actually goes in a bin at the side of the side of the toilet.
I don't like the sound of that. I'm not gonna lie. That sounds quite gross. Just a
But
pile of tissue that's been up someone's arse next to you.
yeah, but it's a pile of tissue that is just wet with water because you've
But
cleaned
it's
your ass
still
off.
ass water, isn't it? It's still been up.
Yeah, but you're not. It's in a bin. It's not like you're leaving it for the next person. You're not hanging it on the towel, the bog roll rail to dry off.
Everyone who goes to this one particular restaurant has to share these 3 sheets of paper.
That's when you go on holiday and they say you
at
only get
Pigs
towels.
Bladders on Twitter.
Okay, just cut me right off. Brilliant.
At Pigs
Go on.
Bladders, he says, swearing invented by what?
You are so laggy. It's unreal.
Is it bad? Is it?
It's pretty bad. Anyway, at Pigs Bladders, I haven't got
There's not a lot I
swearing
can
one.
do
I've
about
only-
it either, mate.
Just crack on, like the professional
Okay.
that you are.
Yeah, Roylo. Pigs Bladders says, swearing invented by Sir James McFarter. The word fart has been recorded since the 13th century and comes from the Old English word fortan, making it the oldest swear word ever recorded. It has been used as a vulgar slang term for flatulence.
He was called James McFarter.
Is that
That's
real?
if that is real, even if it was pre the word fart, that's an unfortunate name, isn't it?
is.
Being called McFarter. It's like a McDonald's version of farting.
Yeah, that's not a good look. Is that real as well? I mean, fart. Now everyone says fart. Is that a swear word? That's not a swear word, is it?
I think anything that was slang based and to do with bodily excrement or passing was shocking back in olden days.
Okay. Is turd a swear word?
It used to be.
Yeah. See, because we have that discussion in our house quite a bit, because the girls will say turd and I'll say that's a swear word. And then everyone, my wife included, gang up on me and say, no, it's not. And I'm like, well, I'm fairly certain it is.
It's worrying though when they all say, shut up, you silly cunt.
Yeah, that's it. Sharon dropped a C-bomb in the car earlier, and the girls were like, "Oh my god!" And Sharon was like, "I don't even know why I said that."
Did she do that? Did she go like that first? Then
Afterwards.
Yeah, she did it afterwards. Oh, that's where she messed up.
There we go.
She should have done it first.
There we go. Rob at UTT Rob on Twitter. He says, AC current, the ability to transfer electricity over AC current, the ability to transfer electricity over large distances revolutionized the world. We all use it all day, every day. And with the move to electrical charged vehicles, it's only going to be more and more influential as time goes on. Okay.
It is.
I didn't even think of that.
If we didn't have AC electricity, our car would not be able to run because it is an electric. We are early adopters to the electric vehicle revolution. So yeah, I mean, a lot of the great inventions without electric wouldn't have happened. So yeah, Rob's absolutely right with that.
Well, you think everyone talks, we've already had a couple of shouts for it now, and I think we get even more coming up for the internet.
Mm-hmm. And the internet is nothing without electric.
There we go. We come to at Yalmorright on Twitter, James. And again, I am hugely sorry for missing your comment last week. He says, first of all, my non-wrestling topic wasn't mentioned on last week's show. Again, very, very sorry.
Apologies.
This week, though, electric's a good one. Either that or wheels. Let's go wheels. Keeps us moving. I like
that's fair.
the idea that he sat there going, electrical wheels.
Do you reckon he debated that for a long time as well? Got the rest of the family's opinion on it. Like, what do you think, electric or wheels?
It's like Daddy or chips.
Brilliant.
And last week he asked, obviously he's a Wolves fan. This is a visual thing, so check it out on Twitter if you're listening to the audio version. But Magsy's got it up on the screen there for our live version this evening. All good, but it was a glorious question, he says. Since you've been away, the things below have happened, but which one is not a wrestling move? And we have Grado smashing Jeff Jarrett with a guitar, Brock Lesnar
Glorious
F5
times.
in Cody Rhodes. Sorry?
Glorious times.
Yes.
Just saying how glorious they are.
CM Punk flying off the top rope towards Samoa Joe as he walks away. And then Andre Onana rugby tackling, clothesline, almost like a Lou Fez press effort on a Wolves defender at Old Trafford on the opening game of the season. So
Out of the four, that's the most wrestling of the wrestling moves.
yeah. What
It's
Grado is
classic.
doing is not a wrestling move, I suppose. So
Well, no, but it's good for the wrestling business to just twat Jeff Jarrett with a guitar.
there we go. We come to Total Stevo and the Stevo section for this week at Total Stevo on Twitter. He says, certainly the internet and what that's done for the world, good or bad. Me and my mate Steve say that all the time. So Steve's got a mate called Steve. I think he's mentioned that before, hasn't he?
That would be confusing.
Yeah, it would be. I mean, it would be if you were somebody else. If you were one of the Steves, you'd probably be okay with it.
Yeah, because you don't refer to yourself in the third person. So
imagine if both Steve-O and his mate Steve just constantly talked like The Rock and referred to themselves like that.
Or as Booker T.
Yeah.
Just doing Booker T impressions. Oh my
God. Sadly, most use the internet to feed an addiction as it's readily available, especially now on our phones. Yeah, that's a fair point. Steve-O continues. YouTube. Porn, indeed. YouTube, I think it's fantastic. Okay, I use it a lot to watch The Bill, but the amount of content available I enjoy watching, listening to, is daily and endless. You never thought
endless.
Well, yeah, I mean, there must be an end. There must be a time when I don't think anyone's ever going to do it. But can you imagine if somebody just turns around and says, "That's it, I'm done. I've watched everything on YouTube."
I don't think that. I think I read a stat a while ago saying that there's 1 billion videos uploaded every day to YouTube. So I think it may be impossible.
Yeah, you have to have like loads of screens set up, wouldn't you?
I mean, you'd have to have the Matrix level of screen set up.
Yeah. Do they have a lot of screens in the Matrix? I just thought it was a lot of black coats and martial arts and shit.
No, at the end of the Matrix, when Neo meets the architect and he's got all the versions of the Matrix on the wall.
Oh, I don't remember that bit. I've not seen that film in so long. I just think when he comes out with the Matrix, I just remember it all being a bit gooey and slimy.
Yeah, fun. Brilliant. Fun fact, I watched The Matrix 4 over the last week. That film's wanking it. That ruined The Matrix for me. It's almost like they tried to restart The Matrix with new people. Neo's barely in it. Trinity is barely in it. It's a bit shit. Don't watch it.
Gone one too far, have they?
Jump the shark.
Yeah. Steve-O says, you'd never have thought this is where it would have ended up when invented 20 odd years ago, in reference to YouTube. Yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah.
Smartphones, I guess, Steve-O says. I don't think anyone can say they can actually go without it. Yeah, that's a fair shake. I mean, I think now, I was quite reluctant to get a smartphone when everyone else around me was still getting smartphones. Again, I fear change. But now, I don't think you could go back, could you?
I mean, technically you could. I know people who hate the use of smartphones, and they like their phones to be old school with actual buttons and a tiny little 1-inch monochrome screen. But I'm from a generation where my first screen was on my phone was green. So to
Yeah,
see how far phones have come, and it's almost now like your phone is an extension of your hand. You use it for so much. It's replaced so many things. It's replaced for many people a watch, calculator, an alarm clock. For a lot of people, it's where they get the majority of their entertainment. I mean, watching Netflix, YouTube,
you're just
Amazon.
listing apps now, aren't you?
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's becoming all-encompassing. You don't use it as a phone anymore. It's literally an entertainment device. It's mental how far they've come. And Sharon in the chat, Sar won't use Samsung Pay, even though he keeps forgetting his bank card. Oh my God, use Samsung Pay. It's the balls, mate. It's balls. Yeah, going into places and just going beep with your phone, and it's quality.
The thing is, my phone at the moment, I've got this crappy old S7, if people can make that out on the thing there. It's broken up there. It's got cracks in the screen, got a chain wrestling pop socket on the back though, which is pretty cool. That my wife has made available via RBF Luxuries. Give us a shout. I basically had to sell my phone because I needed money quickly. Everyone's aware of me losing my job and how shit that was for a while. And I thought, well, this old one will be fine. It's hard work, Magsy. The battery is fucked. I got to charge it like 3 times a day.
Jesus.
But I'm buying a better phone very soon. So there we go. Another comment by Sharon in the chat there that I want to make sure that I read out just so everyone's aware of the situation. Sharon says, I never say that word in front of my kids, but somebody was bad-mouthing Liv and her football ability, so justified. Yes, it was, because they are.
Absolutely.
Yes, exactly.
How dare you? Brilliant.
Sorry,
more editing for you.
Yeah, there we go. Cunts, there we go. Yeah, they are indeed. She is 100% correct. And it did even in that scenario when she was cross and wound up, but it did, even then it just slipped out. But there we go. And Sharon again in the chat, told you I have an iPhone, but you still keep. No, I don't ignore you, my love. I just don't want an iPhone.
Yeah, so are you on the Android side of this fence? This is a tangent. We don't normally ever do tangents. We're quite professional around here. But yeah, I have. So Mrs. Mags got the first ever iteration of an iPhone when they came out. But the minute we switched to Android, we have never looked back. I would not have an iPhone given to me. Well, I would, so I could sell it on. It's just not my thing. They're so behind in technology and features, but yet claim that everything they do is the most amazing thing that there ever was. It's not for me. It's too much, too closed of a system.
Sharon, well, all of us in this house, to be fair, I think Liv was the first one to go over to iPhone, but Sharon was same as me, Samsung all the time. Literally just a Samsung, not even deviated off to different Android phones, always a Samsung and so on. And then she got an iPhone and instantly loved it. So she's obviously the other side of the coin. And she also has like all the other bits and bobs for her business and her writing with regards to her tablet and her MacBook and all that. So it all sinks in. So I can appreciate from her aspect, running her business and starting that up and so on, that comes in quite handy. My issue is I've always been so adamant that I don't want an iPhone. If I get an iPhone off Sharon to use for a while and I like it, I'm going to hate myself a little bit because she's going to be right.
so your reason is that you don't want to prove your partner that she's right, not for the technological standpoint or the mindset, but I will not let Sharon be able to lord this over me.
Mate, she's right so often. I don't need to fuel that fire. You know, it's
but to be fair to Apple users, if you're in that whole Apple ecosystem, the MacBook and the iPad and the iPhone, and the way they work together just so perfectly, I understand that if you've been sucked into that ecosystem, then that's fair. But for me, I like to have the latest technology possible. So for a quick example, the latest iPhone 5 that's just been announced, they're making a massive deal that our phones are coming to USB-C, and that essentially making out as if Apple have invented the USB-C charging port. I've had them on my phones for about 6 years. That's how far behind Apple are, and they're only putting the USB-C on the phone because they are being forced to by the European government, because they want USB-C charging to be blanket all over all smartphones. So they're being forced to do something, but then make out like they have invented this amazing thing.
That's just a marketing spin, though, mate. That's all right. I'll tell you what I have noticed by having this old phone. As I said, this is they're up to like S23 now or something like that, aren't they?
Yeah.
This is an S7, so it is very dated. Something I've noticed about this phone, though, that I miss now I've got newer phones, is you still got the little port there to plug your headphones in. You know?
See, you're so old. You're so old.
Cheers, mate.
I mean, I think you're actually glad the battery doesn't last that long, because it means that you can go back to the days where the phone was plugged into the wall permanently.
I did have to leave it plugged in earlier on when I was making notes and shit. Yeah. Anyway, Steve-O continues again about smartphones. Yes, I see and know the negative effects it has caused on society, but like with the internet, if used as a resource, it is an incredible piece of tech we have. It totally 100%. This one I know nothing about, so you have to bear with me. Steve-O says, the Elizabeth line in London. Okay, it hasn't done what the experts hoped it would do in regards of less people on other lines and less traffic, but the convenience of it getting into Central very quickly and directly is a massive plus. Is that just the underground route?
I'm assuming it's a train line on the underground, yeah. And I don't think it counts as the best invention, because it seems that it's very limited to Steve-O's benefit there.
Fair enough. We've discussed inventions many moons ago, and Steve-O gives a shout out here to something that I think I brought up in the initial discussion we had. He says the WWE network, obviously pre this most recent update.
Oh,
yes. Oh, mate. Steve-O says, yes, I unsubscribed several weeks ago, but due to its ridiculous update. But we all here know its upside, and personally hope in the near future there's possibly AEW follows suit. And I think that they're working on that, aren't they? Some kind of streaming service, maybe through Fight or their own, back catalogue and so on, aren't they? So
yeah, it's probably going to happen. Maybe it'll be on the TNT streaming app or the TBS one. But with the WWE network, whilst it's terrible now, I would enjoy it whilst it lasts, because obviously it's gone the way of the dodo in America. But now the deal with the UFC and WWE merging to form TKO, the UFC have their own streaming service, UFC Fight Pass, very, very successful. And with all the layoffs that have happened, where they've been amalgamating the departments, it's very likely that that's going to happen with the network and Fight Pass. There's no point running two separate streams when the two companies are being brought in to create this synergy. So either the WWE network is going to go away, which would be the logical option, considering it's not even a thing in America. Or the Fight Pass is going to go away, so we're going to get a conjoined app, I reckon.
Interesting times, mate. Interesting times. We still can't watch WCW for 9.07, by the way. Get it fucking sorted out, network.
Ridiculous.
Steve-O continues. Bluetooth earbuds. Although, ironically, the ones I have never connect.
So broken Bluetooth, and it's broke, and it don't work.
But they are convenient, he says. Spotify, yes, it's destroyed some aspects of the music industry, but my God, it's extremely handy for music lovers. Yeah, fair point. I use Spotify all the time, and I always swore to myself I never would, but it is what it is, isn't it?
Two great shouts. I mean, I couldn't imagine having my headphones or earphones connected to my phone now. I think it's archaic, and anyone who still has a phone with a 3.5 jack needs to come into the 2020s.
Anyway, Steve-O finishes up by saying, podcasts being invented. I now can't imagine a life without them.
Yeah,
fair point.
another great shout.
Yeah.
The ability to just get your thoughts and your ideas and just the things that you love talking about out there for everyone to listen. Yeah, so another great shout.
We have more from at Pigs Bladders here. He says, the invention of at Scottish Juggalo. Well done, Danny's mum and dad.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
fantastic. We love you. We love you, Danny.
King's Pig's Bladder also had an invention that maybe wasn't the very best. So Nyla Rose, the wrestler, she put a picture of her lunch looking good. And for the people listening on the audio, it's a humongous cheeseburger. There looks to be about maybe 5 beef patties on there. It's oozing with cheese, and it's got Oreos interspersed in it. So
I don't get that, mate. Would you eat that?
I mean, I like Oreos, I like cheese, and I like burgers. I would buy this. I don't know if I would enjoy this.
If you take the Oreos out of it, I'd be all about that. Melted cheese, loads of meat. Yeah, fantastic. Get in my belly. But I mean, first of all, I'm not a fan of Oreos anyway. But that's not even the deal breaker for me. Why the fuck are cookies in a burger? What's going on with the world?
I thought you were just going to say then it's got a seeded bun. Sesame seeds on a bun.
That's where I draw the line.
Dirty bastard.
And there we go. Thank you so much, everybody in the CWF, for tweeting the show and letting us know your thoughts on the greatest inventions ever. Before we dive into the chat, Magsy, your good self, you got any to shout out?
Yeah, I mean, I think the internet is a banging shout. Rob's shout for alternating current electricity is a great shout. I think one that probably predates all of them, though, antibiotics, keeping humans alive from things like illnesses. I think that's a good shout. And sanitation, things like soap, hot water.
Hang on,
again.
mate. Hang on. Talking about sanitation. You sit on a weird toilet that goes up rather than taking it down next to a pile of soggy poo paper.
It doesn't. Do you think it doesn't go into your bowels? You don't. you don't piss it out. It literally just. It's not like a jet. You're not sat on a like a power washer.
If you sit on it too long, your eyes start watering. That's what.
It just empties you out. You're like a shell of a man afterwards. No, it's just clean and hygienic. But yeah, sanitation, like soap, disinfectant, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's helped the world flourish.
It makes mine seem a little bit one-dimensional now, to be honest. You're talking about all these great inventions.
You said cheese and your potato waffles.
I actually, mine was my toasty maker.
All these amazing inventions. Nope, you're all wrong. You small-minded idiots. It's clearly the Breville machine.
It's the thing, though. Somebody has looked at cheese on toast, which is pretty shit hot in its own right, isn't it? Let's be fair. You know, respect to cheese on toast. Respect where it's due. Somebody's looked at that and thought, do you know what? I'm going to fuck about with this a little bit, which is dangerous to do because it's dangerous when you start tinkering with something that's that good. But
especially
my God,
cheese as well.
Yeah, they pulled it off though, Mags, didn't they?
They did. I mean, I would prefer a toasty over a cheese on toast, but it's a great invention. I don't think it's the best ever invention.
No, not best ever, but those have been taken, haven't they? Like the internet and electricity.
Sharon as well. You go straight for this is the best invention for me. Sharon, thinking of everyone else, insulin.
Yeah. Well, both my nieces are type 1 diabetic as well, aren't they?
So that makes your pick of cheesy toasties even worse.
It does a bit, to be fair.
Selfish man. No wonder only a 14-year-old cat is your friend.
Why? This just turned into a 2-hour, abuse of Sai show, hasn't it? Let's be fair.
Well, if it's 2 hours, luckily we've got 35 more minutes of abusing Sai to go. So,
well, we've got to get on.
In, folks.
Should we dive into the chat and see if there's anything we missed before we start talking about a little bit of wrestling?
And so we've got here. Dan Griffey says, I bet Mags has one of those fancy Japanese robot toilets that has a heated seat and it talks to you as it power washes your ring piece. First of all, it doesn't power wash. It's very gentle. It just loosens the clinkers or the dingleberries. But I don't have a heated toilet seat, but I do have a soft close one, so it doesn't slam down. It very slowly, gently.
See, that's a
Close
good
up.
shape because especially at night, when someone uses doing everyone's in bed, and he goes wham, wakes you up. Like again, my house is very small. I found out the other day if I go to bed late and I run the tap to brush my teeth, I wake Liv up because she's just the other side of that wall by the tap running. That's how small our house is.
How selfish of you to have oral hygiene at night.
Well, no, she means obviously, turn the tap. Well, we should do anyway because conserving water and all that sort of stuff.
Wasting water, yeah. You're deserving this grief that you're getting, aren't you? Really?
Yeah.
Dan Griffin says he would not stoop to Frey Bentos. King's Pig Bladder says Frey Bentos are awesome, and that Dan Griffin is a snob. Do you know Frey Bentos do a curry pie, and it's immense.
A curry pie.
Yeah, chicken curry pie. It is delicious. Yeah. So
I just have a curry. I just have a curry though.
Yeah, but it's a curry with puff pastry over the top.
I know how a pie works. You don't need to explain that.
It's adding that extra level from
okay.
curry, but with a lid.
See, that's the opposite of the toasty maker, where this guy has looked at cheese on toast and improved it. Some other dude has looked at a chicken curry and gone, do you know what that needs? Pastry. It's not the same.
Soggy floppy pastry.
Yeah.
Dan Griffin says this week on how immaculate is your arsehole. Well,
Coming soon to SJP World Media.
As wrestling fans, we should all know, wash your ass. It's as simple as that. King's Blood Banner says that's next week's adding the corner. See, he's done it once. He's realised he's onto something here, and he's now going to abuse that power. And people are going to message him and say, "Can you get them silly bastards on Chain Wrestling to comment on this?" So we're going to have horrific stuff on that in that corner.
Oh dear.
Sharon says turd is not a swear word, and then Dan goes one further and says turd is not a fucking swear word. King's Pig Bladder says before that time the only people writing were monks and they didn't write swear words. Well, I mean they wrote God, and if they wrote damn afterwards, they've wrote a swear word, haven't they?
Yeah, I suppose.
Exactly.
Is there many passages in the Bible that say God damn? I don't think so.
I mean, in terms of God damns you to hell, I suppose.
Okay. But then you're very much taking it out of context, aren't you?
I mean, yeah.
And monks, what are we on about? Monks didn't write the Bible, so what the fuck are we even talking about?
That's very true. They did. All they did was brew wine and Benedictine. Connor says some AW stuff are on Max here in the States, which is the Warner Brothers and Turner Media umbrella. Oh, well, there you go. So they're in then, isn't it? Charlie likes weird headphones. Yeah, but she's got that from her dad. Once she's out like in the real world with actual human beings, she'll realise that
actual human being. Oh, speaking of Charlie, come say hello quickly, Charlie. We're just talking about you, saying you love your wired headphones. There she is.
Charlie wants some wireless Bluetooth headphones for Christmas.
Is that right? Wireless Bluetooth headphones for Christmas, Magsy says. No, she's saying no. Thank you for my cup of tea, though, sweetheart. Thank you very much.
Connor said he's got to say Peacock is a great invention too. Without it, he wouldn't have access to all of the Premier League games for the cheap price of $4.99 a month. That's banging. I mean, you can't really go wrong there, can you?
You get all the 3 p.m. kickoffs as well, man.
Yeah, no, it's wanker's trick. That we're still under a blackout. It's ridiculous. King Pigs Banner says, so looking forward to the Babylon 5 podcast. I get excited when I see that ad in the corner. You know what you have to do now just to placate King Pigs Banners. I mean, I feel we'll spend a lot of time placating him, especially with the Barry Horowitz appreciation episode. But you've got to make one episode of the Babylon 5 podcast, do a whole intro, and then go, it's shit. And then an outro.
I do enjoy making little intro tape videos and stuff like that as well.
There you go. That'll be the highest rated podcast on the SJP Media Network as well, because it's the most honest of them.
It's the most honest, is it? Yeah, because we lie all the time when we're talking about Doctor Who.
Dan Griffin says, "I know how a par works has to be a t-shirt." He also says a bolty par at footer is a belter. What you should actually be doing is going onto the Twitter account that rates football food, and every week have your favorite and worst of the week. And then Dan speaking the truth like it has never been spoke before. Benedictine is fucking grim. It's horrific, absolutely horrific. It's the worst drink ever. And yet Burnley drink like 89% of the world's supply of Benedictine.
Aren't you like far enough up north as well to have people swigging out of bottles of that Buckfast stuff?
No, how dare you? I've tasted Buckfast and that is also very, very grim.
You could just see the hate in your eyes then. How dare you?
That's over the border.
Yeah.
We're close to that border. I mean, we do drink some grim things, but Buckfast it's just a step too far.
Okay. You're too
final
classy
one.
for that.
Yeah, we are. We have all 5 fingers on his hands. Of course, we're too classy for that. King Pigs Banner says he appreciates all we do to keep him happy. And Dan coming in very last minute saying, because when you're in Burnley, life can't get any worse. So why not Benedictine? Do you know the man?
Is that their advertising slogan?
Yeah, drink this to forget that you live in Burnley. Yeah, so the Manners pub, which sells the majority of the world's Benedictine, actually invented the Benny bomb, which is essentially a Jaeger bomb, but with Benedictine. So they took a horrific drink in the first place and made it worse by putting Benedictine. It's disgusting. And then Dan, that the heathen that he is, I'm glad he's over the pedants. He deserves to be in the inbred county of Yorkshire. Buckfast isn't half bad. There you go. And that's when you know your mum's and her brother got a little bit too close.
Wow.
Apologies, Mrs. Griffin.
We're not just insulting individuals anymore. We're going for whole counties in one statement, are we? Is that where we are?
Have you've been to Yorkshire? You know what I say is fact.
I had a lovely time in York.
Yeah, on the way out.
No, round the pubs. It was fantastic. Loved it. I didn't drink any Benedictine or anything like that, though.
Yeah, and Sharon in the chat says, right, don't hate me, but what the heck is Benedictine? I don't hate you. I'm glad you don't understand the horrificness of Benedictine. So basically, it's a liqueur that is brewed by a bunch of monks. I think it's in like the south of France. And Burnley is essentially the world capital of drinking this drink, and it tastes like cough syrup, but cough syrup that's gone off. It's horrific. Yeah, you don't ever want to taste it, Sharon.
It doesn't sound very good at all.
It's not good at all.
Magsy, we're 90 minutes into the show. We better talk about wrestling, aren't we?
I mean, luckily, this match is short, so it won't take long. Let's get into it.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Hogan's a fucking liar. The Warrior didn't behave himself and got fired. Everyone on the opposite team were, sympathizing with Iraq, and that's that, I guess.
Yep. So, what rating would you give that out of 10?
Initially, Magsy, as always, I pressed play on the pay-per-view to watch the intro, as I normally do, and we had a typical early 90s Vince McMahon shouty.
I love these intros.
They're brilliant. They're so ridiculous and stupid, aren't they? SummerSlam 91 is the pay-per-view that, of course, we are talking about. The line that stands out for me, because we have the match made in heaven and the match made in hell. We have Savage and Liz getting hooked. Yep. And then, obviously, the match we're covering in here. The wedding is the other half of it. The line that stood out for me from McMahon was apparently nuptials turn to napalm, which I thought was just absolutely fucking ridiculous, but brilliant at the same time.
I mean, he knows how to exploit a situation. Does good old Vince?
He does
And
indeed.
the threat of a world war meant he could make absolute bank by having his biggest wrestling stars face each other off for a match. Yeah.
Indeed. Our commentary team is a 3-man booth, Magsy. Now, it may be completely obvious, and I'm just being absent-minded, whatever. But is this? It's got to be one of the earliest. But is it the first 3-man booth we've had on a pay-per-view in WWE?
I can't remember any earlier than this.
WrestleMania 7 was a 2-man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you may be right that this is the first 3-man booth.
Oh, we have Gorilla Monsoon.
Oh, potentially, anyway.
Acting as the play-by-play, and he's accompanied by Bobby the Brain Heenan and Rowdy Roddy Piper. Sadly, all three are no longer with us, Max. And
yeah,
something I noticed about the sort of 1990, 1991 WWF roster, and people also involved, referees, ring announcers, and so on. Yes, okay, it's 30 odd years ago, but when you look at the ages that some of these people passed away at, there's so many of these people no longer with us that were on this card.
Yeah, I mean, 3 out of the 5 wrestlers in the match are
they're
pushing up daisies.
We had a 6-man tag open the pay-per-view, and I think the whole of the one team were dead.
It's sad.
Yeah,
this is our childhood. I mean, we were 10, 11 at this age.
Yeah.
So
there we go.
It's hard to look back knowing that a lot of these people are no longer with us, and wrestling has been the reason.
Yeah, well, yeah, definitely. The match we're discussing is Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior tagging up against the Trio of Terror, or the Triangle of Terror.
The Triangle of Terror, yes.
Triangle of Terror, okay. We have Sergeant Slaughter, General Adnan, and Colonel Mustafa. General Adnan Mustafa is the Iron Sheik, isn't he?
He is, yeah. Mustafa, yep. Who, ironically, was Iranian.
Yes.
And Iran and Iraq had literally been warring for the past few years. So he was pretending to be a sympathizer for the country that is actually the enemy of his own country.
Ridiculous, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
The other person involved, then Adnan. I didn't know masses about this guy, so
he was actually Iraqi.
Yes, this is it. And so I did a little research, a little bit of digging, and he was pretty established as a professional wrestler. Apparently, he was a very good footballer as well in Iraq.
Yep.
And he went to in this country, in America, it would be secondary school, but here it's senior school or whatever, the high school in America, isn't it? With he was in the same class as Saddam Hussein.
Amazing.
So
he was an actual sympathizer.
Yeah, exactly. And when he was when he was establishing himself as a professional wrestler in Iraq and then going over to the States and Japan and working as well, Saddam Hussein started wanting him to put wrestling matches on in Iraq. So there's actual history of him booking Andre the Giant and General Adnan beating Andre the Giant in Iraq to try and show that Iraq is a fantastic and superior over the opposite.
Bringing bringing a professional wrestling to the Middle East as well, before the WWE decided to milk it with the Saudi Arabia deal.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's a former WWF or WWF tag team champion as well, with Chief Strongbow, which is quite spectacular. And he spent pretty much the whole of the 80s, barring 1 or 2 shots in Japan, wrestling for the AWA. He must have seen some sights there, because he started with the AWA like 1980, 81, something like that, and he was still there in 89 when it basically went under. So that whole decade, he must have seen so much change and coming and going in the AWA territory. That must have been pretty interesting as well, mustn't it?
Yeah, and then when he come to the WWF, he was almost like the spare wheel in this feud. Which is a little bit sad, but at the end of the day, it's a massive payday and validation for his wrestling career, I suppose.
Yeah, there we go. We have a special guest referee, and this is Sid Justice, Psycho Sid,
don't-
Sid Vicious, whatever.
Don't he look fucking good here?
Oh, he's ripped, isn't he?
I get that he wasn't the best wrestler. He didn't have the commitment for the business, but if you were to draw a wrestler, he would be so close to the perfect wrestler. He just looks like a god. He actually looks like an actual god, like carved out of granite.
He hadn't worked a match for the WWF at this point yet on television. He'd worked a few house shows. He made his debut on an episode. I think it was an episode of Superstars or Primetime Wrestling or something like that, where he was announced as being the guest referee. And vignettes ran for him around this time as well, and he started wrestling after this particular event. And again, it was another attempt, I think, well, not I think, from what I read and so on, of McMahon looking for his next Hogan. And Sid was the guy he was going to build to be the next big baby face. And we see here, don't we, Hogan almost endorsing him at the end, which we'll come to shortly. But it's that thing that obviously Sid wanted to work heel. And I suppose you look back now and you think, you dumbass, why don't you just give it a go? The money you could have made with that behind you.
The problem with Sid was he had one eye on making money in the wrestling business, but he then had another eye on the little league off season or the softball off season.
Yeah, this is true.
He wasn't committed to wrestling, I suppose.
Yeah, this is true. We have some promos before the match begins, scattered throughout the pay-per-view. We have a promo from the heels, first of all, and they're explaining that they might have a little bit of a surprise. Hogan and the Warrior are already outnumbered. They're going to be even more outnumbered because we have a little bit of a surprise. We get a Sid interview with Sean Mooney. And, I mean, how early 90s announcer is Sean Mooney, by the way? Just
Sean Mooney's awesome.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not disputing that. The guy's fantastic.
And then Sean shows Sid Justice a bit of footage to show that he may be being a bit of a snake, siding with the Triangle of Terror.
Yes, backstage footage from earlier in the day being used there. The pay-per-view carries on, and eventually we get a promo interview segment from our babyface team. This is just after, Magsy, an advert, though. Did you see the advert for the pay-per-view coming in October? Hulk Hogan, The Real American Story.
I skipped it.
It's all about it. It was a big thing. It's the hottest ticket going, Gorilla Monsoon was saying. Kids, you want to buy this pay-per-view? And Hogan plugs it himself, and apparently it's about the career and life of Hulk Hogan. I wonder how that did. On pay-per-view.
Yeah, who the fuck would pay for that? I mean, I suppose in this time period, he was massively popular.
Yeah,
he was wrestling. He was the
here.
He's
still crazy over, isn't he? You see him. You see when he comes out and so on, and everything. The crowd are proper invested, but his star power, I think, is starting to fade a little bit at this point. His prime is maybe 1 or 2 years previous to this, in my opinion. You got to think by the time, and this is August of '91, Ric Flair's on his way in. It's only 6 months away from the '92 Rumble, and then of course WrestleMania 8, Hogan steps away, and I think this is almost like the farewell tour of Hogan as champion, isn't it? Really?
Milking the Hogan bandwagon for all it's worth.
Yeah, there we go. The promo then from Hogan.
It's stupid, isn't it?
What are they shouting? Just lots of shouting.
They end up like literally screaming in each other's face.
And at one point, it's like they almost want to give each other a kiss.
Yeah, it's erotic. It's screaming.
It is.
You see,
screaming is erotic, is it?
That's another T-shirt.
We're getting not only is it another T-shirt, it's a little insight into what goes on at your house. The pop. What the entrances then? Let's get to the entrances. The pop for the Warrior and Hogan, we'll get to in a moment. As you'd imagine, it is immense. But Sid comes out and gets a pretty good reaction.
He does,
and again looks insane. Then we get the trio of our heel company coming out, and you got Sergeant Slaughter doing his Sergeant Slaughter shtick. He's shouting at the crowd, shouting at the cameras, and it's almost like, I'm going to keep calling him the Iron Sheik. I can't help myself. It's almost like the Iron Sheik has been told everyone's going to march to the ring.
I had exactly the same thought. Like,
And
I
no other
pictured
fucker does it.
I pictured the three of them like huddled up and Sheik saying that, yeah, we'll do this march, and Slaughter and Adnan winking at each other.
Yeah.
Because he's literally in the middle, the only one doing it. He looks like a beefed up bushwhacker, doesn't he?
He looks like a bushwhacker that can't bend his arms at the elbow.
He is
It's just like-
I mean, he can't bend at the elbow or the knees.
Yeah. It's not a good
Literally.
look, is it?
No, but he looked a bit of a pillar. And
He
Adnan
did.
behind him, not even following suit, just, yeah. Poor Sheik. Poor Sheik.
The reaction for the Warrior when that first bit of music hits is, and also fantastic entrance theme, of course. I love the Warrior's entrance theme. It's so
It's
iconic.
so energetic, yeah.
Yeah. And he runs to the ring, does his usual get up there, and the crowd still love this guy, even though
Burn
the
off that
experiment, yeah, exactly, the experiment of him being the top guy probably didn't quite work. He dropped the belt to Slaughter at the Rumble, obviously, but he's still here at this point. He is still number 2 in the company, I would think. He's probably above Savage at this point. Would you say, Max, or is Savage?
No, he's definitely number 2. And I would suggest in terms of merchandise popularity, yeah, it was Hogan, then Warrior, then everybody else.
Yeah, fair enough. The pot for the Warrior is only beaten by the pot for Hogan. Madison Square Garden on this August night, they love this guy.
They do. But I mean, the storyline, as ridiculous as it is, it plays into everything that Hogan stands for. And it makes him the ultimate babyface. So yeah, the pop is absolutely unreal.
The match goes to begin, and Sid, the guest referee, calls for the bell, and then he calls for it again, and I believe he even calls for the bell a third time. The bell never rings, so he just looks a complete mug, which I got a little bit of a grin out of.
He looks a mugging quite a lot of this match, to be quite fair, but I don't think wrestling refereeing was his forte.
No, no, definitely not. Hogan and Sergeant Slaughter start, and I'll tell you what, I was impressed by Sergeant Slaughter here.
He carried the match. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Slaughter is the MVP of this match.
Oh, without a doubt.
It starts in typical 80s wrestling style, though, where it takes forever for the first lockup. It takes forever for the first wrestling move. And we've spoke before about how Jerry Lawler and Ric Flair were experts at doing this, holding off and basically making the fans erupt before actually starting the match and doing as little as possible and maximizing the energy that they get out of it. But this goes way too far. Hogan Slaughter, it's about 5 minutes into the match before anything of note actually happens.
Yeah,
there's just so much theatrics. I mean, there's a point where Slaughter's wants to whip Hogan with a strap, and Sid takes it off him and throws it onto the floor. It's just dragged out the start. And I understand why, because you want to build that fever pitch up. But yeah, it does take a long time for this match to get going.
It does. You got to remember as well, they're not on last.
No,
the wedding.
There's a whole wedding on last. Yeah.
Yeah. So they must know that there's a time restraint. Obviously, going on last.
Do you think Hogan gives a fuck about the time for everyone else?
No, you're probably right.
Absolutely not. I don't think that he was even meant to do the thing at the end.
No.
But he did it anyway, because Hogan is a posing prick who has to be the center of attention. And he's a fucking liar.
Yeah.
60 lies I've collected about that bastard. 60.
60 lies. Slaughter takes a crazy bump into the corner when he's Irish.
Jesus.
I
forgot that this happened. He very nearly headbutts the actual metal pole.
Yeah.
And the camera is right up to the post as well. And I think it's Roddy Piper on commentary makes a point that we're getting up close to the action. But Jesus, he shot into that corner so hard. It looked it looked like something Flair would have done when he wanted to blade.
Yeah.
It looked. You would have expected Slaughter to be bleeding after that.
Yeah, exactly. Hogan comes off the middle rope here with an axe handle. We don't see that very often, do we?
Can you imagine if it was Sid and his leg broke?
Okay.
He wouldn't be. Hogan wouldn't be able to do the atomic leg drop afterwards. It'd be awful.
That's true. Yeah. What a miss that would be.
But he does an axe handle, yeah, and the crowd go mental for it. It's a very basic wrestling move. I mean, this shows how much Hogan he gives so little in the ring that they got the crowd went mad when he climbed the middle rope, like high off the floor, did an axe handle, and it was the best thing in wrestling for that crowd. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy. He gets a 2 count from it, but Slaughter doesn't kick out, and it's a long, slow 2 count because Iron Sheik and General
He's not in the best condition. Iron Sheik,
no,
he takes a while to get into that ring.
They're coming into the ring to break up the count, but they are moving incredibly slowly, aren't they? And I think Sid at one point has to slow down his count just so they get there.
Sid there looking at his watch like, shit.
Oh dear. We get into the corner then, and Hogan being Hogan. I mean, Hogan always wrestled as a heel, even before he turned heel. Hogan's in the corner, and as always with Hogan, clenched fists, 1, 2, 3, and all that. Sid steps in there and break. No, you can't do that. No clenched fists. Let him out the corner.
Sid does this quite a lot as well during the match. I mean, the Hogan bit, he's meant to give the 5 count. He interrupts after, I think, 3. Then tells Hogan he's got the 5 count, and that if he carries on, he'll send him to the back. Then Hogan does it again, and Sid instantly jumps in. He doesn't stick to the 5 count rule at all, and then threatens Hogan. Yeah, he does it with I think every member of the Triangle of Terror. He threatens to send them to the back, which I don't. Surely it would just be a disqualification, and the whole match would be thrown out. They're not managers. You can't send them away. They're in this match, Sid. He just didn't know his job at all.
No, totally. It just there were moments I thought Sid's doing great here, but they were sort of very few and far between. And in between those
shit the bed.
in between those moments, I looked at him and I thought, he really doesn't look like he knows what he's doing. Like the proper deer in headlights expression on his face, you know?
It's almost like he had a live mark in front of him and he had to say a promo. He was that out of his depth.
If your particular taste in professional wrestling is you enjoy back rakes, then this next moment is for you, because General Adnan tags in, and it seems like it's the only move he ever fucking learned. He must do 20 of these back rakes.
He even does them when he's on the way out of the ring. And Iron Sheik's taking over. He just gets another one in for good measure to make sure that people know he's the king of the back rakes. Jesus Christ, he scratches the shit out of Hogan's back. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Iron Sheik Mustafa, he tags in, and we see a pretty good gut wrench suplex. To be fair, I thought that was quite spectacular. That was good.
And that tired him out. So that was pretty much the end of his wrestling. Goes for
rest whole time.
Yeah, camel clutch time.
Yes, the camel clutch is applied, but soon broken up.
Yeah, and did you see how it was broken up? Warrior comes into the ring and just volleys Sheik in the back of the head. He literally just boots his head clean off. It's just horrific.
We get the first moment here teasing about which way Sid is going to go, don't we? Because there's an Irish whip by Sergeant Slaughter. He sends Hogan, who by this, bear in mind, he has had his back raked, he's had this suplex, he's been in the camel clutch, he's selling as well as Hogan can sell. He bumps into Sid, All of that selling goes out the window. He stops,
Yeah.
stands up. I'm okay now. And they have a little bit of a stare off, and the crowd are reacting a little bit to this as well. And I'm at this point, I'm thinking, this is interesting. What is the story they're trying to tell? Because at this point, as far as I know, Sid is earmarked to be the next big babyface, and they want Hogan to endorse him. So why are they teasing they may have a scrap? I don't quite get that.
Because Hogan wants to be the fucking center of attention. He wasn't happy that Sid was meant to come out of this looking good, so he had to orchestrate some story that he could go to Vince with and say, yeah, Sid doesn't work for me, brother, so he could keep his fucking spot at the top of wrestling like the wanker that he is.
Don't hold back, Magsy. Say what you really think, you know.
He's a fucking liar. 60 lies I pulled out today. Well, no, 15 of them from a few weeks ago, but 45 lies in today alone. The amount of typing for notes I've had to do because of that fucking bald-headed orange bastard. Stop telling lies, Hogan.
Okey-doke. Sergeant Slaughter goes to the top rope, which I thought was really odd. The Warrior just shoves him off, though, and he takes quite a pretty spectacular bump from that as well, doesn't he?
He does. I mean, Slaughter, he was the Will Ospreay of this match. He was the Daniel Bryan of this match, weren't he?
I think I don't know what's in that beaker you keep sipping from, but is it Benedictine or whatever? It's got. I think here we see as well. I don't know if this is intentional. I'm going to assume that you're going to say it is, because it puts Hogan in a bad light. But the big thing for me with tag team wrestling, one of the biggest moments in a tag team match is when the babyface team gets that hot tag.
Yep.
The whole match can be structured around that moment. Now, we get two of those in this match. The first one is here. Hogan is getting beaten down. He gets the hot tag to the Warrior, but it's done in a really poor way where it's not obvious the tag has been made. Hogan is still trying to hold off an opponent at the same time, so the Warrior doesn't get that pop, that reaction of the hot tag. Whereas later on, when we see the Warrior making the hot tag to Hogan, pretty much towards the finish of the match, that's done more traditionally, for want of a better phrase, Magsy. And we see the hot tag and the crowd go crazy because the tag has been made. And I think the difference in those two moments really stands out to me.
The difference in those two moments is Hogan. He wasn't getting the pop, so he was doing everything to sabotage the other pop. He's a tosser. Hogan is a tosser, and he did it on purpose.
I don't think I've ever seen you so fired up about Hulk Hogan before. I know you're not a massive fan, but this is like a different level.
Yeah, I mean, it's just now I'm older and I can understand how political he actually was, and how he would just do the more snide, underhanded stuff to make sure he looked like the star. He couldn't let anybody else even get any kind of glory or spotlight. Yeah, he's a prick. He was an absolute prick.
But then, just playing devil's advocate for a moment, then, is that not what the top guy 95% of the time in wrestling has always done? Because Hogan made so much more money than everyone else in professional wrestling up to this point. He's going to protect that position. But at the same time, I think he's going to be allowed to do these things because he made the company so much money. And we've tried the Warrior. We've tried Savage after he won the tournament after WrestleMania 4. We've tried alternatives to Hogan since the first WrestleMania, and it's never worked. And we've gone back to Hogan. Can you kind of? I think you can kind of see why McMahon and Hogan would protect that position.
Yep, I get that that point, but if you look at the most successful period in WWE's or WWF's history in terms of money, it was when there were multiple people who could be that top guy. You look at the Attitude Era there, you've got Triple H, you've got Austin, you've got The Rock, you've got Taker, Kane, you've got a group of people who none of them look out of place as the top guy.
Okay.
In this period, and then kind of like the wrestling we've got now, there's one top guy, and then there's a pyramid vying for second place, and you put all your eggs in that one basket. You have one wrestler at the top and not have him elevate other wrestlers to his position. If something ever happens to that one wrestler, as we saw when he disappears for months and months on end, the business falls flat because you haven't built those stars to take that place. And Hogan's part in that was that he wouldn't help build other stars because of his fear of losing his spot. He wanted to be the guy, but he didn't have anybody who was on his level, and he's a big part of that by just being as underhanded and snide as he was.
I mean, I don't. Like I said, I was just playing devil's advocate. I completely 100% agree with you.
Well, don't do it again.
All right, fine.
Just agree with me.
Look at that. That was great. That was really professional back and forth. And now you're telling me don't do it again. That was good.
Yeah,
content.
don't ever be professional on this show. I won't stand for it.
The heels beat down the Warrior for a while before we get that hot tag that I mentioned that the Warrior makes to Hogan, and Hogan gets the reaction, and then everyone's in the ring and it gets a bit crazy and everyone's sort of scrapping away and Sid's splailing around all over the place, not really knowing what he's doing. The Ultimate Warrior then goes to the outside and randomly grabs a chair. To which point,
chases off Adnan and Mustafa.
Yeah.
And then Sid, doing his job, starts to count. Hogan, the cheating twat that he is, throws salt, flour,
cocaine,
talc, cocaine in the ass of Slaughter. So he's a heel doing heelish tactics. And Sid then stops doing the counting, turns around and does the fastest count ever. Yeah. I will call it in his promo. He says, "I will call this straight down the line. Justice will be served." The minute Hogan gets a chance for a pin, he's bang, 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 match over. He's a Sid was a liar. He was just under Hogan's thumb. Ridiculous. He was buttering up Hogan. Yes, Sid, we're going to make you the next big star, brother. Oh, thank you, Mr. Hogan. Thank you.
Is that how
do everything that I tell you? Okay, I will.
Sid sounds like that.
That's Sid's actual voice.
Okay, fair enough. He blew it at WrestleMania 13 though when he shit his pants in the main event, didn't he?
And then blew it again when he broke his leg copying Hogan's axe handle off the top rope.
That was what it was.
Rope, sorry. Yeah.
He looked back to this moment and thought, he looked back to SummerSlam 91 and thought, do you know what? Hogan got a pop for that. Why haven't I thought of this before? I'm going to have a go.
Oh, no. I instantly regret this.
My whole leg from the shin down has turned to blancmange. Oh, dear. This is where we get a little bit of confusion because, well, not confusion, a little bit of uncertainty as to what's going on. Hogan's won the match, but he's almost won this 3-on-2, match made in hell thing. Yeah. And it looks like it's a singles contest at the end because we've got one heel wrestler, one babyface wrestler. Hogan's won it on his Todd. The Warrior's disappeared. And I'm thinking, okay, the Warrior's going to come back at any moment and they're going to celebrate their win. But that doesn't happen because apparently the Warrior, as soon as he went through the curtain, was basically fired by Vince McMahon, wasn't he?
He was, pretty much. Well deserved as well, to be fair.
Yeah. I mean, the story goes that a month before the pay-per-view, apparently, the Warrior sent an official letter, I don't know if it's via his solicitor or whatever it may well be, requesting various different things are said online about what he requested, but the ones that seem to cross over to everyone's account is that he wanted an extra $500,000 a year.
Or he was going to no show.
Which is a lot of money. He also then wanted a reduced and set schedule. Specific dates he can work throughout the year, and there's no leeway on that. And there was other bits and bobs as well. Merchandise. He wanted a higher percentage of merchandise and all this sort of stuff. Or he wasn't going to turn up. Now, this had been built up, with Sid's debut and all that sort of stuff, the storylines going into it. And you got to think as well, this match, Hogan and Warrior versus these three, Slaughter especially, it begins way back
Mhm.
because the Warrior is your champion at the Royal Rumble, who drops it to Slaughter. Slaughter then drops it to Hogan, and then Slaughter brings in other people, and then Hogan goes and recruits the Warrior. So it's almost like an 8-month long
Yeah.
storyline's maybe a stretch, but an 8-month long theme running throughout their
Yeah,
pay-per-views this year.
And this is a time before monthly pay-per-views where storylines can be done and dusted in a matter of 4 weeks. So the build to this,
Mm.
to the second biggest pay-per-view of the year,
Yes.
and Warrior essentially held up Vince for ransom. Now Vince did cut him that $500,000 check, but then sacked his ass literally the minute he walked through the curtain. So yeah, that's why he didn't come back. So, but instead, Hogan calls back the referee.
Yeah. And rips his shirt off in a kind of homoerotic moment, doesn't he?
And gets him to pause.
Yeah. And I bet when he did that, Hogan straight away thought, shit, shouldn't have done that.
Oh yeah, fuck this up.
Fantastic.
Sid pauses better than I do. He's
Yeah.
getting bigger pops than me. Yeah, and then he went backstage and buried him to Vince. He said he broke my neck whilst doing that 3 count. Vince, he's not safe. You should give me the towel.
He's the reason I didn't get to play bass for the Rolling Stones.
Yeah.
You know, stuff like that. Yeah. Sid as well, though, it's good to see that his inability to master the whole spinning your hand around and cupping your ear started way back here. That seems to go throughout his whole career. He doesn't master it at WrestleMania 8. Anytime in WCW when he crosses paths with Hogan, he tries to mock him and can't quite get it right either. There's a lot of finger pointing.
He can't even pause properly.
No.
I mean, as a kid at this time, everybody had Hogan's pause down. Everybody knew the routine. Sid got it wrong. He did the wrong parts. It was just, he was a fucking idiot, isn't he? There's no brains underneath that super noodle wig, is there?
Oh, dear me. Did you want to watch EastEnders tonight or something? And that's going early as fired you up. Something's pissed on your chips here.
I've missed University Challenge for this bollocks.
Well, actually, no, Burnley are playing, aren't they?
They are, yeah. Against
Well,
Forest.
finished, but yeah.
Looking for their first point.
Interesting. I don't know why they've got on. I don't want you to check because if they've lost, if you're fired enough already, if they've lost, I don't want to see you escalate even further. To be fair.
I mean, it's a point.
Okay, there we go. Anyway, Magsy, out of 10, what are we thinking?
It's very basic. It's not even basic wrestling. This is wrestling that you would learn on the first day of wrestling school. There are far too many back rakes for my liking. Hogan is a prick. Warrior is a prick. Sergeant Slaughter is the best thing in this match by a million miles. It gets a 1 from me.
Why? A 1? That's very low. I mean,
It was
justifiable, but justifiable. I mean, you say that it's really stripped back, simple wrestling that you learn on the first and all this sort of stuff. But the crowd are going mental for it. The crowd are going absolutely insane for everything they're doing. Is this lazy or is this clever?
I understand that. It's clever in the fact that they've got such a massive reaction and so many people invested in a match with one wrestler who can go in the ring out of 5. That's brilliant that they can sell it. But looking at it in 2023, this was a wank match. It was horror. I'm glad it was just 12 minutes because any longer and I would have been ripping my hair out. Yeah.
It felt longer than that.
It did. Yeah. It was awful. There's about 2 minutes of wrestling in a 12-minute match.
I've got a smidge higher, Magsy. I've got a 2.5.
Okay.
So, but yeah, it is shit.
It's very, very shit.
It's very shit. The best bit about this, I'll tell you what the best bit about this is hearing the Warriors music and that crowd pop, and then hearing Hogan's music and that crowd pop. Those are the best bits of this match.
Yeah.
After that, turn it fucking off.
Yeah. The whole wrestling part and the bell rung, as Bruce Pritchard likes to say, basically.
Yeah. There we go. shall we have a quick scan through the chat now, or shall we? Let's do our links first and then dive into the chat afterwards because they might have
I mean,
something to say about
because
where
that's what we do every week. So why break the habit of the last time?
Fair enough. Maxie, where do you want to go next week?
So I felt really sorry for a certain member of the CWF. Poor Dan Griffin was looking forward to a Bret Hart match. I mean, we all know how much that guy gets a stiffer for the Hitman. So I felt really bad that he didn't get that match. So I thought that we would get some Bret Hart in there by hook or by crook. He may not like the Bret Hart that we get in here, though, because I wanted a match that had Bret Hart and Hulk Hogan together. And there are very few of them.
Mm-hmm.
But in WCW, they did cross paths. They did team up.
Yeah.
And at the Great American Bash 90.
Oh, Maxie coughing his guts up. It's took 2 hours, 10 minutes to get that. So I think that's progress, mate. Because normally you're dying within 10 seconds.
It's the thought of another Hogan match.
Even saying Hogan, then he's strained.
Anyway.
You good?
Yeah, I think so. Hogan just makes me sick.
Great American Bash, what year?
Great American Bash, 1998, the WCW/NWO version of it. And we've got the NWO Hollywood, but with Bret Hart and Hollywood Hogan taking on Randy Savage and Rowdy Roddy Piper. So
Hart
that's the
and
match.
Hogan.
A Bret Hart match and linked to Hulk Hogan.
Versus Savage and Piper. So a very WWF heavy match in WCW, isn't it?
It is, yeah, pretty much.
That's pretty crazy.
Everything
isn't it, really?
that WCW stood for. Take old people from WWF and milk them till they were dead.
For goodness sake. I think we need to wrap this up soon so you can go to bed. I
mean, to be fair, 2 of them are actually very dead.
They are. They're not even a little bit. They are very dead.
One of them had his brains kicked out by Goldberg and has never been the same. And the other one just shits lies for a living. So
anyway, it will surprise you not in the least, Magsy, that I too have gone WCW.
I'm surprised it go Barry Windham. Like somewhere link it to the UWF.
The UWF, jeez. I think Windham might be on this card, but it's not who I'm going with. It's not who I'm going with. I thought, looking at this match today, there's a lot of silliness there. There's a lot of daftness surrounding what we're doing. And there we go, the ticker across the bottom of all the fucking Barrys that you say are better than Barry Windham. Bloody hell. I need to delete this. I keep forgetting.
I'll just put it back on.
But anyway, I thought this was bullshit. You went then. Did I go? Did I use my internet, or am I here? Am I back?
This is all you. This is all you.
Okay, but everyone can hear me now. Yes.
I mean, I can. That's enough as we need.
Fair enough. I thought to myself, what is one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen in professional wrestling? You know, to go along with this trio of terror and all this sort of nonsense, and then Sid as the ref. It's just a load of silly nonsense. What is really, really daft? And what can I possibly link to? So I thought initially I'll go with Sid, because there's something bound to be daft with Sid. Quite an easy link there, somewhere along the line. And that took me down the road of the Four Horsemen and when he was in the Horsemen and so on. So from there, I would like to use Sid and the Four Horsemen as the link. And head to...
The Four Horsemen wasn't in this match, so you mean you just want to use Sid as the link?
You pedantic bastard. Yes, okay.
Where was Arn Anderson and fucking Tully Blanchard in this match?
Right.
Unless he was wearing a General Adnan face mask.
Do you reckon they made those?
And Arn Anderson learnt the camel clutch on the fly, then them 2 were in this match. Although Sergeant Slaughter did do the Ric Flair post bump, so perhaps these were the Four Horsemen. Like, like moonlighting.
First of all, Arn Anderson would never need to learn the camel clutch. If anything, he taught
Oh
Adnan
my
that. Okay.
Well, that's funny because it was Iron Sheik that did it. So
Well, fair enough. Yes. Okay. So the link there, I can go via that route if you
he
want.
taught Adnan how to back rake, and that's all he learned.
There we go. Sid is the link. Sid was once in the Four Horsemen. There we go. You happy with that
There
now?
we
That makes
go.
more sense. Yeah. Fuck me.
Gotta keep those ducks in a row.
The Sid version of the Four Horsemen was 1990. So I thought something really daft and stupid. The match I'd like to look at, first of all, is for the world title, main events of the pay-per-view. It's Lex Luger versus Ric Flair in a steel cage. It's very, very good. However, I want to also cover what's going on around this match with the Horseman and Sting, who is injured at this time. This is the pay-per-view with RoboCop.
Have we not
It's
covered that before?
so shit. I don't
We've
think so.
covered it. We've spoke. I'm sure we've spoke about this.
We've not covered Luger Flair.
Fuck's sake. Okay. Vote man, please, people.
But those are your options
Wait, no,
for the
in
poll.
fact, man's bad as well. It's
Yeah.
1998 WCW.
Well, to be fair, there's a lot of good in 1998 WCW. You just
Yeah,
haven't
but
picked it.
none of it contained Hulk Hogan, did it? Brother.
Brother. Oh, dear me. Those are your links for next week's Chain Wrestling Live. Make sure you're voting in the poll, etc., on Twitter and so on when the poll goes up later in the week. You have the option of WCW in the, I suppose, Attitude NWO-esque era. The Great American Bash 1998, where we see Bret the Hitman Hart teaming with Hulk Hogan, taking on Randy Savage and Roddy Piper.
Mhm.
Or we head back to Capital Combat 1990, Lex Luger versus Ric Flair in a cage for the world title when Luger could still really go. And Flair was probably at his peak as well. But also RoboCop, Arn Anderson running away from RoboCop, and RoboCop being really short.
And also nearly falling over,
Yeah, oh yeah, I forgot about that.
which they were absolutely terrified about because there's no way he could have got back up
He
and it
could have
would have
stood back
damaged
up.
him. Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Those are your options, which, like I said, vote in the poll and it's up later in the week at Chain_Wrestling on Twitter. Magsy, should we dive into the chat before we depart this evening?
Yes, we shall. So Dan Griffin is gonna dominate this this last run into the chat. He says a lot when Sergeant Slaughter is your work rate guy at this stage of his career. Yeah, he
Brilliant.
says that's why this match deserved a 1. It was horrific. Dan also says the rules of what the master and ruler of the world. Was he the master and ruler of the world at this time? I mean, it was this was Sid Justice, weren't it? Where it was justice will be served. I don't think he was doing the whole I'm the man who ruled. That was Sarkos, weren't it? But yeah,
Did
still,
he do it? He didn't do it in WCW at all, did he?
He did. Yeah, he was the. Was he not?
I
Was
think
he
he
the
took it back
Millennium?
to yeah, he took it back to WCW with him, didn't he? But yeah, it was
Yeah.
WWF first. You're right. Yeah.
Sa auditioning for Good Cop, Bad Cop by playing Devil's Advocate. Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting.
Dan says this match is that bad that I forgot that I covered with Mags back in the old that 90s wrestling podcast days. Yeah, we've covered some shit on that show. Jesus Christ. Hopefully it'll make a comeback sooner rather than later. Dan then says the bits with Bret, Savage, and Piper will be good. Cheers, Mags. See, always thinking about you, Dan. Unlike Sa, who couldn't wait to get away from Bret Hart, to be fair. But then Dan says, does sound like a good shout for a 50-50. No, it does not.
No.
Nobody wants to see us talk about both these showers of shit. Never mind, just one of them.
Oh, dear me. But there you go. That's everything in the chat, is it? Yeah. Okay.
It
Great
is.
stuff. All right, Magsy, before we depart then, John, let everyone know whereabouts they can find you online.
Yep. You can find me on TikTok at PodFarmerMags. You can pretend to find me on Twitter, x.com at PodFarmerMags. Probably won't reply though because I'm an ignorant AF. But yeah, most of the time you can find me here every Monday on Chain Wrestling with this beautiful bastard.
Oh, thanks, mate. Because of all the grief you give me for the last 2.5 hours. Just
Yeah, I thought I'd balance it
That's
out.
lovely. Yeah. Cheers.
Yeah, I thought Sa must pause. I thought that's what we'd go with.
There you go.
Never pause again.
No, I
Never
will
ever
not.
do that again.
As soon as I did that, I was like, that was a bad
Yeah.
move.
Oh, that was that Sid level of pausing. Don't rip your top off as well.
I won't, mate. I like this t-shirt too much. Anything I'm involved in, you can, as always, find it by the network that carries this show. So that's at SJP World Media on Facebook and Twitter and all your podcast players, platforms, and providers. And loads of shows. Too much to talk about on here. It takes too long, you know. We've got the HBK pod now. We've got the Safe Place sessions that, you know, so much, just brilliant stuff, left, right, and center. Make sure you're diving in and checking it out. Live coverage of Premier League football as well, with alternative commentary brought to us by The Volley. What have we got here at the bottom here? Mr. Mags saying Babylon 5 podcast coming soon. No, it's not. It's not. It's just not going to happen.
I bet we can will it into existence.
But most importantly, you can follow this show on Facebook and Twitter at chain_wrestling. Yes, make sure you're getting involved there. Magsy, I'm off now to go downstairs and make sure that there's bread left for my sandwiches, and that bastard cat hasn't had it all. I'll speak to you next week, my friend.
Second time you've been called a bastard today. Oops, I haven't pressed the audio. There we go.